How to build systems for extreme daily productivity. Welcome to a new way of living. If you are listening to this, you are probably tired of ending your day feeling exhausted, yet feeling like you got nothing done. We are taught to write endless to-do lists and squeeze more hours out of the day. But here is the truth. Extreme productivity is not about working longer. It is about building simple, automatic systems that do the heavy lifting for you. This book will give you real, proven habits to reclaim your time, protect your energy, and effortlessly execute your biggest goals. Let us dive in. Before we begin, I have a request for you. Please let me know in the comment section what time of day you usually feel the most energetic and focused. Your answer could be early morning, late afternoon, or even midnight. Comment below so we can see how different everyone is. Chapter 1. Manage your energy, not your time. We have all been sold a massive lie about what it takes to be successful. For generations, since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, we have been told that productivity is simply a math equation based on time. We are told that there are 24 hours in a day, and if we just manage those hours better, we will finally achieve all our goals. You have probably tried every time management trick in the world. You have bought expensive daily planners. You have downloaded complex scheduling applications on your phone. You have color-coded your digital calendar until it looks like a modern art painting. And yet, despite all of this effort, you probably still end your day feeling completely drained, staring at a to-do list that somehow seems to have grown longer. You need to understand why this happens. It happens because time management is the wrong tool for the modern world. Time is a fixed and rigid resource. You cannot create more of it. No matter how wealthy, powerful, or brilliant you happen to be, you get the exact same 24 hours as everyone else on this planet. Time simply passes. But energy is completely different. Energy is a dynamic and renewable resource. It expands and contracts based on how you treat your body, how you guide your focus, and how you manage your emotions. The most successful people in the world do not manage their time, they manage their energy. Consider the modern workplace and the demands placed upon you every single day. A century ago, most human labor was physical. Factory workers and farmers measured their productivity by how many hours they spent moving their hands or operating machinery. When the whistle blew at the end of the shift, the work stopped. Their physical energy was depleted, but their mental and emotional energy was largely left alone. Today, the landscape of work has completely changed. Most of us are knowledge workers. We use our brains to solve problems, communicate with others, and create new ideas. This type of work requires an immense amount of cognitive and emotional energy. But instead of adapting to this new reality, we have applied the old factory mindset to our modern lives. We try to force our brains to operate like machines, churning out high-quality thoughts for 8, 10, or 12 hours straight. This is biologically impossible. The result of this mismatched approach is a global crisis. We are currently living through a severe burnout epidemic. Recent data from the year 2024 and 2025 paints a very clear and alarming picture. According to a global study by Gallup in 2024, nearly half of all employees around the world report feeling burned out at work. Furthermore, studies indicate that up to 76% of workers experience burnout at least sometimes. In specific regions, the statistics are even more concerning. A 2025 report regarding the United Kingdom workforce revealed that 91% of adults reported high or extreme levels of pressure or stress in the past year. In the United States, research from 2025 shows that job burnout has reached a staggering 66% among American employees. This burnout is not simply a matter of feeling a little bit tired. Burnout is a profound physiological and psychological state of exhaustion. When you try to manage your time without managing your energy, you constantly push yourself past your natural limits. This triggers your body to release stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. In short bursts, these hormones are helpful. They give you the focus and speed you need to meet a tight deadline or escape a dangerous situation. But when you are constantly racing against the clock, your body stays in a state of high alert. Chronic exposure to these stress hormones overloads your system. It impairs your ability to sleep, weakens your immune system, disrupts your mood, and completely destroys your ability to concentrate. The global economy loses $1 trillion annually due to lost productivity from depression and anxiety. This is not a failure of time management. This is a profound failure of energy management. To build a system for extreme daily productivity, you must completely shift your paradigm. You must stop looking at your calendar as a grid of hours to be filled and start looking at yourself as an energy system that needs to be optimized. This revolutionary concept was brought into the mainstream by a researcher named Tony Schwartz in a landmark study published by the Harvard Business Review in 2007. The study was titled, "Manage Your Energy, Not Your Time." Schwartz and his team studied high-performing individuals and discovered that those who sustained extreme productivity over long periods did not do so by working longer hours. Instead, they built intentional rituals to manage and renew their energy across 4 specific dimensions. These 4 dimensions are physical energy, emotional energy, mental energy, and spiritual energy. If you want to achieve extraordinary results without destroying your health, you must learn how to master all 4. Let us begin by exploring physical energy. This is the absolute foundation of your productivity system. You cannot build a tall building on a weak foundation, and you cannot build a highly productive life on a tired, malnourished body. Physical energy is generated by 3 main sources: sleep, nutrition, and movement. Most ambitious people sacrifice sleep first. They stay up late, working on projects or scrolling through their phones, convincing themselves that they can get by on 5 or 6 hours of sleep. This is a catastrophic mistake. Real scientific studies show that sleep deprivation destroys your cognitive function, reduces your creativity, and makes you far more emotionally reactive. To build a system for physical energy, you must establish a strict sleep routine. You need 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep every single night. This is not a luxury. It is a biological necessity for high performance. Nutrition is the second pillar of physical energy. The food you eat is quite literally the fuel for your brain. If you eat heavy, highly processed meals full of sugar, your blood glucose levels will spike rapidly and then crash, leaving you feeling sluggish and unable to focus. To sustain high energy throughout the day, you need to eat light, nutrient-dense meals. Your system should include eating foods that provide a slow, steady release of energy. Hydration is also a critical and often ignored component of physical energy. Your brain is composed mostly of water. Even a slight drop in hydration can cause a significant decrease in your ability to concentrate. A simple, actionable step you can take right now is to place a large glass of water on your desk every morning and make sure you drink it before you start working. Movement is the third pillar of physical energy. You do not need to become a professional athlete to be highly productive, but you do need to move your body. Human beings were not designed to sit in a chair staring at a glowing screen for 10 hours a day. When you sit for prolonged periods, your blood circulation slows down, which means less oxygen is delivered to your brain. This naturally causes your energy levels to drop. To combat this, you must build movement into your daily system. This could be as simple as standing up and stretching every hour, or taking a brisk 10-minute walk during your lunch break. These small inputs of movement signal to your body that you are active and alive, keeping your physical energy levels elevated. The second dimension is emotional energy. The quality of your energy is just as important as the quantity of your energy. You can have all the physical energy in the world, but if that energy is channeled into anger, frustration, or anxiety, you will not be productive. Negative emotions are incredibly toxic to extreme productivity. When you feel threatened or stressed, your brain shifts resources away from the prefrontal cortex, which is the area responsible for logical thinking and problem-solving, and redirects those resources to the amygdala, the primitive part of your brain responsible for survival. This means that when you are angry or anxious, you are literally less intelligent and less capable of doing complex work. To manage your emotional energy, you must build a system to regulate your emotional responses. One of the most effective and actionable ways to do this is through deep abdominal breathing. When you feel yourself becoming overwhelmed by a demanding email or a frustrating colleague, do not react immediately. Stop what you are doing. Take a slow, deep breath into your stomach, hold it for a few seconds, and slowly release it. This simple physical action sends a powerful signal to your nervous system that you are safe, which stops the production of stress hormones and brings your rational brain back online. Another crucial system for managing emotional energy is the practice of gratitude. Taking just 2 minutes at the beginning of your day to consciously think about things you are grateful for can profoundly shift your emotional state, priming you to approach your work with positivity and resilience. The third dimension is mental energy. Mental energy is about the focus and direction of your attention. In our modern world, your attention is under constant attack. Your phone is constantly vibrating, your email inbox is constantly filling up, and your environment is filled with endless distractions. Every single time you shift your attention from your main task to check a notification, you burn a significant amount of mental energy. This is a concept known as context switching. Research shows that it can take your brain up to 20 minutes to fully regain its focus after being interrupted. If you are interrupted just a few times an hour, you will spend your entire day in a state of superficial, low-quality focus, completely draining your mental energy in the process. To protect your mental energy, you must ruthlessly eliminate distractions and build a system for deep focus. You need to create clear boundaries around your attention. Turn off all non-essential notifications on your phone and computer. Close the extra tabs on your web browser. When you sit down to do important work, treat that time as sacred. Focus on one single task at a time. Multitasking is a myth. The human brain cannot actually focus on 2 complex tasks simultaneously. Instead, it rapidly switches back and forth between them, burning massive amounts of mental fuel and producing lower quality work. By directing all of your mental energy toward a single objective, you will complete the task faster and with significantly better results, leaving you with more energy for the rest of your day. The fourth and final dimension is spiritual energy. This has nothing to do with religion. In the context of extreme productivity, spiritual energy refers to your sense of purpose and meaning. It is the deep, internal motivation that drives you to do the work in the first place. When you are doing work that aligns with your core values and contributes to a larger purpose, your energy levels naturally expand. You feel inspired, resilient, and unstoppable. Conversely, when you are doing work that feels meaningless or conflicts with your values, every single task feels like an exhausting burden. You have to force yourself to do the work, burning massive amounts of willpower just to get through the day. To cultivate spiritual energy, you must connect your daily tasks to a larger vision. You need to deeply understand why you are doing what you are doing. Ask yourself what truly matters to you. What impact do you want to have on your family, your community, or the world? When you have a clear sense of purpose, you create a limitless well of spiritual energy. Even when the work is difficult and even when you are physically tired, your spiritual energy will push you forward. To build this into a system, spend 5 minutes every Sunday evening reviewing your long-term goals and connecting them to the tasks you have planned for the upcoming week. This simple habit ensures that your daily actions are always aligned with your deeper purpose. Now that you understand the 4 dimensions of energy, you need to understand the biological rhythms that govern how this energy flows throughout your day. You are not a machine that can operate at a flat, consistent speed for 24 hours. You are a biological organism driven by internal clocks. The most important of these clocks is your circadian rhythm. Your circadian rhythm is a roughly 24-hour cycle that dictates your sleep and wake patterns, your hormone production, and your fluctuations in body temperature. It is the master controller of your daily energy levels. Within the study of circadian rhythms, scientists have discovered that different people have different biological energy patterns. These patterns are known as chronotypes. Your chronotype dictates the specific times of day when your physical and mental energy naturally peak, and the times when they naturally dip. This is not a matter of preference or laziness. It is hardwired into your genetics. A fascinating 2019 study conducted by the University of Surrey found that when employees were allowed to align their work tasks with their natural chronotype, their overall productivity increased by up to 20%. On the other hand, forcing people to work against their natural biological rhythms caused severe cognitive fatigue and significantly reduced performance. A prominent sleep expert named Dr. Michael Bruce has categorized human chronotypes into 4 distinct profiles based on the sleep patterns of animals. Understanding which profile you fit into is a critical step in building your daily productivity system. The 4 profiles are lions, bears, wolves, and dolphins. Let us look at the lions first. Lions represent the classic early birds. They make up roughly 15 to 20% of the population. Lions wake up naturally before dawn, full of energy and ready to tackle the day. Their peak productivity window is from the early morning until around noon. During these hours, a lion can accomplish a staggering amount of deep, analytical work. However, because they burn so much energy early in the day, lions typically experience a sharp drop in energy in the late afternoon, and they need to go to sleep quite early in the evening. If you are a lion, your system must involve doing your most difficult and important tasks immediately in the morning. You should never waste your peak morning hours on trivial tasks like answering low-priority emails. Next, we have the bears. Bears represent the majority of the population, making up about 50% of people. A bear internal clock follows the natural rise and fall of the sun. They typically wake up around sunrise and go to sleep around sunset. Bears experience their peak energy levels from mid-morning until early afternoon. They generally experience a noticeable dip in energy right after lunch, usually around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Because bears align so closely with traditional societal working hours, they adapt well to standard office schedules. If you are a bear, your system should involve scheduling complex, demanding work between 10 in the morning and noon. During your afternoon energy dip, you should switch to lighter, less demanding tasks, like administrative work or organizing your files. The third profile is the wolves. Wolves are the classic night owls, making up roughly 15 to 20% of the population. Wolves struggle significantly to wake up early in the morning. For a wolf, the early hours are characterized by grogginess and low mental clarity. Their energy slowly builds throughout the day, reaching its absolute peak in the late afternoon and extending well into the evening or even the night. When everyone else is logging off and shutting down, wolves are just hitting their stride. The modern 9-to-5 work schedule is incredibly difficult for wolves, as it forces them to work when their brain is essentially asleep, and asks them to stop working right when they are becoming most productive. If you are a wolf, your system must involve protecting your late afternoon and evening hours for your most creative and complex projects, while using the morning for slow, simple, routine tasks. Finally, we have the dolphins. Dolphins make up roughly 10% of the population. In nature, real dolphins sleep with only half of their brain at a time, keeping the other half awake to watch for predators. Human dolphins are typically light sleepers who struggle with insomnia and erratic sleep patterns. They rarely wake up feeling completely refreshed. Their energy levels can be unpredictable, but they generally experience a window of high productivity from mid-morning to early afternoon, similar to bears. Because their sleep is so fragile, dolphins must be extremely strict about their physical energy systems, particularly their sleep hygiene and stress management. To build a system for extreme daily productivity, you must identify your own chronotype and fiercely protect your peak energy windows. You cannot fight your biology and expect to win. If you are a wolf, forcing yourself to wake up at 5 in the morning to do complex financial analysis will only result in frustration and errors. If you are a lion, trying to write a creative proposal at 8 at night will be equally useless. Your actionable step here is to conduct a personal energy audit. For the next 2 weeks, keep a simple notebook on your desk. Every 2 hours, write down your current energy level on a scale from 1 to 10 and note how easy or difficult it is to focus. After 2 weeks, you will see a clear, undeniable pattern. You will know exactly when your internal battery is fully charged and when it needs to rest. Once you understand your natural energy peaks, you must implement the next crucial system, which is the energy investment portfolio. This is where we move from theory to intense, practical action. Most people treat their to-do list like a random assortment of chores. They start at the top and work their way down, treating every single task as if it requires the exact same level of effort. This is a massive drain on your daily productivity. Answering a simple email does not require the same amount of mental fuel as writing a strategic business plan. Yet if you spend your highest energy hours answering emails, you will have absolutely nothing left in the tank when it is time to do the work that actually matters. The energy investment portfolio is a system where you categorize all of your daily tasks based on the specific type and amount of energy they require. You will divide your tasks into 3 clear categories: heavy investment tasks, moderate investment tasks, and low investment tasks. Heavy investment tasks are the actions that drive your life and your career forward. These are the complex, creative, and highly strategic projects: writing a book, designing a new product, solving a complicated coding problem, or preparing a major presentation. These tasks require intense focus, sharp cognitive function, and significant emotional resilience. They require your absolute best energy. Moderate investment tasks are the necessary functions of your work that require attention, but not brilliant insight. Participating in a standard team meeting, reviewing a familiar document, or updating a project tracking spreadsheet. These tasks require you to be awake and present, but they do not demand maximum brain power. Low investment tasks are the routine, administrative chores that you could almost do with your eyes closed. Deleting spam emails, filling out standard expense reports, organizing your digital desktop, or paying bills. These tasks require almost zero creative energy and very little mental focus. Your system for extreme productivity relies entirely on strategic task matchmaking. You must ruthlessly match your heavy investment tasks to your peak energy windows. If your energy audit reveals that your peak window is between 9 in the morning and noon, that 3-hour block must be heavily guarded. You must build a fortress around that time. No emails, no casual meetings, no scrolling on social media. That time is exclusively reserved for your heavy investment tasks. This is how you achieve massive results in less time. When you tackle your most difficult work while your mental and physical energy is at its absolute highest, you operate with incredible speed and clarity. You can accomplish more in those 2 or 3 peak hours than most people accomplish in an entire 8-hour workday. Conversely, You must purposely save your low-investment tasks for your lowest energy periods. Everyone experiences an energy dip at some point in the day. Instead of fighting that dip or trying to force yourself to do hard work when you are exhausted, you simply deploy your low-investment tasks. When your brain feels slow and tired at 3 in the afternoon, that is the perfect time to process your inbox, fill out those expense reports, and clean up your workspace. You are still being productive, but you are aligning the difficulty of the work with the capacity of your biological battery. There is one more biological rhythm you must understand to perfect this system. While your circadian rhythm dictates your macro energy levels over a 24-hour period, your body also operates on shorter microcycles throughout the day. These are called ultradian rhythms. Science has proven that the human brain can only sustain highly focused, intense cognitive activity for roughly 90 to 120 minutes at a time. After this period, your brain rapidly consumes its supply of glucose and oxygen, and a biological need for rest begins to build. If you ignore this need for rest and try to push through, your productivity will completely crash. Your focus will shatter, you will start making careless mistakes, and you will begin to feel irritable and stressed. This is because your body is shifting into a fight-or-flight response to force you to keep going. To maintain extreme daily productivity, you must work in harmony with your ultradian rhythms. This means building a system of sprinting and resting. The actionable system is simple but highly effective. You will divide your heavy investment work into 90-minute sprints. During this 90-minute block, you will completely lock in. You will close your door, silence your phone, and give the task your undivided maximum attention. You will work with a sense of urgency and intense focus. But when the 90 minutes are up, you must stop. Even if you feel like you could keep going, you must step away from the work and initiate a recovery period. This recovery period must last for at least 15 to 20 minutes, and it is absolutely critical that you understand what true recovery looks like. Scrolling through your phone and reading the news is not recovery. Checking your email is not recovery. Talking to a colleague about a stressful project is not recovery. True recovery requires you to completely disengage your logical, problem-solving brain and allow your system to reset. Effective recovery rituals focus on restoring your physical, mental, and emotional energy. You could take a brisk walk outside, allowing the natural light to reset your internal clock and the fresh air to oxygenate your blood. You could do a 10-minute stretching routine to release the physical tension in your muscles. You could sit quietly and practice the deep abdominal breathing we discussed earlier. You could even close your eyes and listen to relaxing music. The goal is to completely shift your brain state, allowing your energy reserves to replenish. When you return to your desk after a proper 20-minute recovery period, you will be amazed by how sharp and focused you feel. By riding the natural waves of your ultradian rhythms, you can string together multiple high-performance sprints throughout the day without ever reaching the point of burnout. You will sustain a high level of output from the morning until the evening, simply because you gave your body the strategic rest it demanded. You must remember that productivity is not a test of your physical endurance. You are not a marathon runner trying to run until your legs collapse. You are a knowledge worker, an athlete of the mind. Your greatest asset is your mental clarity and your creative insight. When you burn yourself out by working blindly for 10 hours straight, you destroy your greatest asset. You become slow, reactive, and easily overwhelmed. Managing your energy, instead of your time, requires a massive shift in how you view your own value. Society has conditioned us to believe that busyness is a badge of honor. We want people to see how many hours we sit at our desks because we mistakenly believe that presence equals importance. You must reject this deeply flawed philosophy. Your value is not determined by how many hours you spend staring at a screen. Your value is determined by the results you produce. It is determined by the quality of your ideas, the problems you solve, and the impact of your actions. When you master the systems outlined in this chapter, your life will transform. You will stop feeling like a victim of the clock. You will wake up knowing exactly when your energy will peak, and you will have a strategic plan to exploit that peak for maximum results. You will learn to honor your natural dips in energy, treating them as necessary periods of restoration rather than moments of weakness. You will build a fortress around your sleep, your nutrition, and your focus, knowing that these are the true engines of your success. This journey toward extreme daily productivity requires discipline, but it is a liberating discipline. It is the discipline to say no to the endless demands of time management and yes to the biological reality of energy management. Start today. Conduct your energy audit. Discover your chronotype. Categorize your tasks into the energy investment portfolio. Build your 90-minute sprints and fiercely protect your recovery periods. You have the power to completely redesign your days. You do not need more time. You just need to harness the incredible renewable power of your own energy. Empower yourself to take control of your biological rhythms. When you respect your energy will reward you with focus, clarity, and unstoppable momentum. Let us explore further the deep psychological benefits of managing your energy. When you rely solely on time management, you live in a constant state of scarcity. You are always looking at the clock, feeling anxious that the day is slipping away. This mindset of scarcity breeds fear and stress. You constantly feel like you're falling behind, no matter how much you actually accomplish. This is a miserable way to live, and it completely drains your emotional energy. However, when you shift to energy management, you enter a mindset of abundance. You understand that even if you only have 3 highly focused peak energy hours a day, those 3 hours are more than enough to create massive success. You stop worrying about the hours you are not working, because you know you are strategically recovering to make your next work session even more powerful. This psychological freedom is perhaps the greatest benefit of the entire system. It removes the guilt of resting. Rest is no longer seen as a failure of productivity, but as a critical component of the productivity cycle itself. To fully integrate this system into your daily life, you need to communicate your energy boundaries to the people around you. This is an actionable step that many people avoid out of fear, but it is absolutely essential. If you work in an office or a team environment, you cannot simply disappear for 3 hours without explaining why. You must have an open and honest conversation with your colleagues and your manager. Explain the concept of peak energy windows and deep work sprints. Let them know that you are adopting this system not to avoid work, but to produce significantly higher quality work for the team. Tell your team that between the hours of 9 and 11 in the morning, you will be offline and completely focused on heavy investment tasks. Assure them that you will be fully available and responsive during your moderate and low energy periods in the afternoon. Most managers and colleagues will respect this boundary if you communicate it clearly and if they see a noticeable improvement in your output. By setting these expectations, you eliminate the pressure to constantly check your messages during your peak energy hours, allowing you to sink deeper into the flow state of extreme productivity. Let us also delve deeper into the concept of the flow state. Flow is a psychological term coined by researcher Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. It describes a state of complete, immersive focus in an activity. When you are in flow, time seems to vanish. You are perfectly matched with the challenge in front of you, and your brain operates at its absolute highest capacity. You cannot achieve a flow state if your energy is depleted or if you are constantly interrupted. Flow requires a massive initial investment of mental energy to enter, and it requires sustained energy to maintain. By managing your energy across the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual dimensions, you are essentially building a launchpad for the flow state. When you sit down during your peak biological window with a well-rested brain and a calm emotional state, you can slip into flow effortlessly. This is where your best work is created. This is where true excellence is born. Let us examine a practical step-by-step scenario of how an average person might completely overhaul their day using the energy investment portfolio and their newly discovered chronotype. Imagine someone who has always struggled with the standard corporate schedule. For years, they have set their alarm for 6 in the morning, trying to force themselves into the mold of the early riser because society celebrates the early bird. They drag themselves out of bed, exhausted and foggy, and immediately begin drinking copious amounts of caffeine just to feel normal. They sit down at their desk at 8 in the morning and attempt to do their most complicated analytical work. But because their brain is not fully awake, they stare blankly at the screen. They get frustrated, which drains their emotional energy. To escape the frustration, they open their email and spend the next 2 hours answering low-priority messages, convincing themselves they are being productive. By noon, they are completely exhausted, but they still have not touched their most important project. After lunch, they experience a massive energy crash, rendering the entire afternoon useless. This is the cycle of time management failure. Now, let us apply the energy management system to this exact same person. First, they conduct the 2-week energy audit. Through tracking their energy levels every 2 hours, they make a vital discovery. They are not a lion or a bear. They are a classic wolf. Their biology is simply not designed to be highly cognitive at 8 in the morning. Their true peak energy window does not open until 3 in the afternoon, and it stays open until 8 in the evening. This revelation changes everything. They stop fighting their biology. With this new knowledge, they restructure their entire system. They stop setting their alarm for 6 in the morning, and instead allow themselves to sleep until 8, securing the critical physical energy they were previously lacking. When they start their workday at 9, they no longer attempt to do heavy investment tasks. They know their brain is still in a low energy state. Instead, they purposefully use their morning hours for low investment tasks. They gently process their email inbox, organize their files, attend basic team update meetings, and plan their schedule for the week. Because these tasks require very little cognitive horsepower, the wolf completes them easily without draining their overall energy reserves. As the day progresses into the early afternoon, their biological energy naturally begins to rise. They transition into moderate investment tasks. They review documents, make important phone calls, and outline future projects. They are gaining momentum. Finally, at 3 in the afternoon, their circadian rhythm hits its absolute peak. Their mind is sharp, alert, and capable of extreme focus. This is when they deploy their heavy investment tasks. They close their door, turn off their phone, and initiate a 90-minute sprint of deep work. They tackle the complex analytical project that used to paralyze them in the morning. Because they are working in perfect harmony with their biological peak, the work flows effortlessly. They complete the analysis in 90 minutes, a task that previously took them 4 hours of agonizing struggle. They take a 20-minute recovery walk, return to their desk, and execute one more 90-minute sprint to finish a major presentation. By 6 in the evening, they have accomplished more high-value work than their colleagues have accomplished all week, and they still feel energized. This is the incredible power of the energy management system. It does not require you to become a different person. It simply requires you to understand the person you already are and to build a daily structure that supports your natural biology. You must also consider the impact of your physical environment on your energy levels. Your environment constantly sends signals to your brain that either elevate your energy or drain it. If you are working in a cluttered, poorly lit room with a constantly buzzing phone and a noisy background, your brain has to expend a massive amount of subconscious energy just to filter out the chaos. This is a silent drain on your mental reserves. To maximize your daily system, you need to curate an environment that protects your energy. Keep your workspace clean and minimal. Optimize your lighting, utilizing as much natural sunlight as possible, because sunlight is the most powerful signal to your circadian rhythm that it is time to be alert and active. If you work in a noisy environment, invest in high-quality noise-canceling headphones to create a sanctuary of silence for your heavy investment tasks. Every single environmental friction point you remove gives you back a corresponding amount of mental and emotional energy. Another profound aspect of energy management is the concept of strategic nutrition during your workday. We briefly touched on eating light meals, but it is important to understand the mechanics of digestion. Digestion is one of the most energy-intensive processes in the human body. When you consume a heavy meal, especially one high in simple carbohydrates and saturated fats, your body must redirect a massive amount of blood flow away from your brain and toward your digestive system. This is why you feel lethargic and sleepy after a large lunch. This phenomenon is often called a food coma, but in scientific terms, it is postprandial somnolence. If you schedule a heavy investment task immediately after a heavy meal, you are fighting a losing battle against your own physiology. Your brain simply does not have the oxygen and blood flow required to perform at a high level. To optimize your system, you must align your nutrition with your task portfolio. If you know you have a 90-minute sprint of deep work scheduled for 1 in the afternoon, your lunch at noon must be extremely light and focused on sustained energy. Lean proteins, healthy fats, and complex carbohydrates like leafy greens. You should eat just enough to satisfy your hunger without triggering a massive digestive burden. Save your heavier meals for the evening, when your heavy investment tasks are completed and you actually want your body to begin shifting into a state of rest and relaxation. By treating food as a strategic tool for energy management rather than just a source of comfort, you gain incredible control over your cognitive sharpness throughout the day. Let us also talk about the critical importance of weekends and time off in the energy management system. The factory mindset of time management has convinced many ambitious people that they must grind 7 days a week to be successful. They view weekends as an opportunity to catch up on work. This is a fatal flaw that guarantees eventual burnout. Remember, energy is a renewable resource, but it requires actual time and conditions to renew. If you run a car engine constantly at its maximum limit without ever changing the oil or letting it cool down, it will eventually explode. Your mind and body operate on the same principle. You must build strict, non-negotiable boundaries around your recovery time. True extreme productivity requires you to work with absolute intensity during your work hours and to disconnect with absolute intensity during your rest hours. When the weekend arrives, you must stop managing tasks and start prioritizing deep recovery. This means engaging in activities that actively fill your energy reservoirs. Spend time in nature to restore your spiritual and physical energy. Engage in hobbies that you are passionate about, which replenishes your emotional and mental energy. Spend quality time with people you love, which produces oxytocin and reduces stress hormones. Do not check your work emails. Do not casually review project spreadsheets. You must allow your nervous system to completely step away from the demands of your profession. When you return to work on Monday morning after a weekend of profound, intentional recovery, your energy levels will be at their absolute maximum, allowing you to execute your weekly systems with ruthless efficiency and clarity. There is one final scenario we must address to make your energy management system bulletproof. What happens when your carefully planned system is disrupted by an unexpected crisis? Life is unpredictable. You might have your heavy investment tasks perfectly mapped to your peak energy window, but then an emergency occurs. A major client threatens to leave, a critical piece of technology breaks down, or a personal issue demands your immediate attention. In the old paradigm of time management, an unexpected crisis ruins your entire day. Your schedule is destroyed, your tasks are pushed back, and you end the day feeling stressed and defeated. In the paradigm of energy management, a crisis is handled entirely differently. Because you have been actively managing and protecting your energy reserves, you actually have the capacity to handle the emergency without burning out. When a crisis hits, you immediately pivot your system. First, you assess the energy requirement of the crisis. Is it a heavy investment problem that requires deep strategic thinking, or is it just an urgent but low investment administrative error? If it is a heavy investment crisis, you must immediately reallocate your energy. You cancel your planned heavy investment tasks for the day, knowing that you cannot successfully execute two highly demanding projects at the same time. You direct all of your available mental and emotional energy into solving the crisis. More importantly, you utilize your emotional energy management tools to stay calm. The average person panics during a crisis, which triggers their amygdala, floods their body with stress hormones, and drains their energy instantly. You, however, will use your deep abdominal breathing system. You will regulate your nervous system, keep your prefrontal cortex online, and approach the crisis with cold, rational logic. You will solve the problem faster and more efficiently because you are managing your internal state. Once the crisis is resolved, you do not immediately jump back into your regularly scheduled heavy investment tasks. You recognize that the crisis has drained a massive amount of your daily energy battery. You must immediately trigger a recovery protocol. You step away from your desk, take a walk, and allow your adrenaline levels to drop. You then evaluate your remaining energy for the day. If your battery is mostly drained, you accept that reality. You do not force yourself to do complex work while exhausted. Instead, you spend the remainder of the day completing low-investment tasks, ensuring that you are still making progress without damaging your health. You adjust your system, move your heavy investment tasks to the following day, and go to sleep, knowing that you successfully navigated a storm because your energy system was robust and adaptable. This adaptability is the hallmark of extreme daily productivity. Systems are not meant to be rigid prisons that punish you when things go wrong. True systems are flexible frameworks that guide your decisions based on the resources you have available. Your energy is your most precious resource. Guard it fiercely, cultivate it daily, respect its limits, and harness its peaks. In summary, the path to extreme daily productivity begins with a radical rejection of the old, broken system of time management. Time is the canvas, but your energy is the paint. You cannot create a masterpiece with an empty palette. You must commit to studying your own biological rhythms. You must become fiercely protective of your sleep, your nutrition, and your physical movement. You must learn to breathe through emotional stress and eliminate the toxic habit of context switching. You must connect your daily actions to your deepest spiritual purpose. You must discover whether you are a lion, a bear, a wolf, or a dolphin, and you must schedule your life accordingly. You must sort your tasks into the energy investment portfolio, matching your hardest work to your sharpest hours. And finally, you must respect the undeniable limits of your ultradian rhythms, sprinting with intense focus and resting with equal dedication. Building systems for extreme daily productivity is the most important investment you will ever make in yourself. It is not a quick fix. It is a fundamental rewiring of how you approach your daily existence. It requires courage to let go of the comforting illusion of the to-do list and the packed calendar. It requires the discipline to stop working when your 90-minute sprint is over, even if you want to push through. It requires the self-awareness to honestly evaluate your own energy patterns and the humility to accept your biological limitations. But the rewards are beyond measure. You will discover a version of yourself that is calm, focused, and incredibly effective. You will no longer measure your worth by how exhausted you are at the end of the day, but by the tangible, high-quality progress you make toward your most meaningful goals. You will reclaim your health, protect your peace of mind, and unlock a level of extreme daily productivity that most people only dream of. The system is yours. It is time to manage your energy, protect your focus, and start building the life you truly desire. This concludes the foundational principles of energy management. You now possess the knowledge to break free from the exhaustion of time management and step into the power of energy optimization. As we move forward into the next chapter, we will build upon this foundation. We will explore how to take your peak energy windows and protect them from the outside world, using the profound strategies of time blocking and deep work. You have optimized your internal battery. Next, we will optimize your external schedule. Prepare to take your productivity to an entirely new level. Chapter 2: The Magic of Time Blocking and Deep Work. In the previous chapter, we completely dismantled the old, broken paradigm of time management. We established that your foundational system for extreme productivity must be built upon the strategic management of your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual energy. You now understand how to track your biological rhythms, identify your personal chronotype, and categorize your tasks into an energy investment portfolio. You have optimized the internal engine that drives your daily output. Now, it is time to build the external framework that will house this powerful engine. It is time to take your peak energy and apply it to the physical reality of your workday. This chapter will introduce you to the ultimate external system for extreme daily productivity. We are going to explore the profound magic of time blocking and the transformative practice of deep work. To understand why we need a new system for scheduling our days, we must first examine the tool that almost everyone currently uses. That tool is the traditional to-do list. Since we were children in school, we have been taught that the best way to get things done is to simply write them all down on a piece of paper and cross them off one by one. On the surface, this seems logical. It gets the ideas out of your head and onto a physical medium. But for ambitious people trying to achieve extraordinary goals in a complex modern world, the standard to-do list is actually a trap. It is a recipe for continuous anxiety and guaranteed underperformance. The fundamental flaw of the to-do list is that it completely lacks the dimension of time. When you look at a list of 15 tasks, your brain sees them all existing in a vacuum. The list does not tell you how long a task will take, when you should do it, or how much of your precious energy it will consume. A complex strategic project that will require 3 hours of intense cognitive focus is written right next to a trivial reminder to reply to a casual email. Because the human brain naturally seeks the path of least resistance, you will almost always gravitate toward the easiest tasks first. You will spend your morning crossing off 6 or 7 minor, insignificant chores. You will feel a false sense of accomplishment because you are actively crossing items off your list. But when the afternoon arrives and your biological energy naturally dips, you will finally face the massive, complex project that you have been avoiding all day. You will not have the energy to do it, so you will push it to the list for tomorrow. This is how major goals are infinitely delayed. Furthermore, a to-do list creates an open-ended contract with your workday. Because there are no boundaries around when a task should be completed, tasks inevitably expand to fill whatever time you have available. This psychological phenomenon is known as Parkinson Law, named after the British naval historian Cyril Northcote Parkinson, who first wrote about it in the 1950s. Parkinson Law states that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. If you give yourself an entire day to write a simple report, it will take you an entire day. You will overthink it, you will get distracted, you will revise it endlessly, and you will stretch a 2-hour task into an 8-hour ordeal. To escape the tyranny of the to-do list and the trap of Parkinson Law, you must fundamentally change how you organize your daily existence. You must transition from a task-based mindset to a time-based mindset. You must stop asking yourself what you need to do and start deciding exactly when you are going to do it. This is where the practice of time blocking enters the picture. Time blocking is a time management method that asks you to divide your day into distinct blocks of time. Instead of working from an open-ended list, you assign every single minute of your workday a specific predetermined job. You create a visual calendar where your deep work, your meetings, your administrative tasks, your meals, and even your periods of rest are scheduled in advance. When you time block your day, you are essentially treating your time with the same rigorous respect that a successful financial investor treats their capital. You are creating a budget for your hours. Before we explore the exact mechanics of how to build a time-blocked schedule, we must deeply understand the environment we are operating within. We cannot talk about extreme productivity without addressing the single greatest threat to your focus in the modern era. That threat is the disease of continuous distraction. We live in a world that is completely addicted to the idea of constant connectivity. From the moment we wake up until the moment we go to sleep, we are bombarded by a relentless stream of digital demands. Our smartphones vibrate with notifications, our email inboxes refresh continuously, and workplace messaging applications flash with urgent requests. We have somehow convinced ourselves that this constant state of fragmented attention is just the normal way to do business. We believe that by keeping 10 tabs open on our web browser and answering emails while listening to a conference call, we are being highly efficient. We call this multitasking, and for decades people wore their ability to multitask as a badge of honor. But real science has definitively proven that multitasking is a complete biological myth. The human brain is simply not physically capable of concentrating on two cognitively demanding tasks at the exact same time. When you think you are multitasking, what your brain is actually doing is rapidly switching its attention back and forth between different targets. This process is called context switching. Context switching is the silent killer of extreme productivity. Every single time you shift your focus from a complex task to a new stimulus, even for just a few seconds, you force your brain to undergo a complex neurological operation. Your brain must disengage from its current neural pathways, locate the information required for the new task, load that new information into your working memory, and attempt to orient itself. When you switch back to your original task, the entire exhausting process must be repeated. The cost of this constant mental juggling is absolutely staggering. When we look at the real-world data, the impact of context switching on our economy and our individual lives is terrifying. Recent research extrapolated from workforce studies and the pioneering work of researcher Gloria Mark at the University of California, Irvine, reveals that context switching costs the United States economy an estimated $450 billion every single year in lost productivity. This is not an abstract theory. This is real financial devastation caused entirely by fragmented attention. Let us break down exactly how this happens on an individual level. The data shows that the average modern knowledge worker switches between digital applications up to 1,200 times a day. We bounce from our word processor to our email, then to a team chat, then to a spreadsheet, then back to the chat. It is a relentless, chaotic dance. We think these are just minor interruptions, but the cognitive toll is massive. Studies show that when you constantly context switch, you experience a 40% decrease in your overall productivity. Think about that number. By simply giving in to distractions, you are literally throwing away almost half of your potential output every single day. The problem goes much deeper than just the seconds lost while clicking between windows. There is a lingering cognitive penalty associated with every interruption. This penalty is known as attention residue, a concept introduced by business professor Sophie Leroy and heavily popularized by the author Cal Newport. Leroy discovered that when you switch from a primary task to a secondary task, your attention does not cleanly and entirely follow you. A significant portion of your mental focus remains stuck thinking about the first task. For example, if you are deep into writing a complex strategy document and you suddenly pause to check your email, you might see a message from your manager asking a vague question. Even if you decide not to reply right away and immediately return to your document, your brain is no longer fully dedicated to the writing. A thick residue of your attention is now trapped wondering what your manager actually meant and how you should respond later. Because of this attention residue, it takes an incredibly long time to regain your state of deep concentration. The research from the University of California, Irvine, quantified this perfectly. They found that after an employee is interrupted, it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds for them to fully refocus on their original task. Let those numbers sink in. 23 minutes. If you are interrupted just 3 or 4 times an hour by a ringing phone, a chatty colleague, or a buzzing notification, you will literally never experience a single moment of high-quality focus during your entire workday. You will spend your whole day in a shallow, reactive state, fighting through a thick fog of attention residue. This brings us to the ultimate antidote to the distraction epidemic. This antidote is a philosophy of work that will completely separate you from the masses of overwhelmed, burnt-out professionals. It is the concept of deep work. The term deep work was coined by Cal Newport, a brilliant computer science professor at Georgetown University, in his groundbreaking book on the subject. Newport defines deep work as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their absolute limit. These are the efforts that create new value, significantly improve your skills, and are incredibly hard for anyone else to replicate. Deep work is the writing of a profound book, the development of a complex software architecture, the crafting of a masterful legal defense, or the strategic planning of a new business venture. Deep work requires all of your mental energy, and it demands the complete elimination of context switching. In direct opposition to deep work is what Newport calls shallow work. Shallow work consists of non-cognitively demanding logistical-style tasks that are often performed while you are somewhat distracted. These efforts tend to not create much new value in the world, and they are very easy for anyone else to replicate. Shallow work is replying to routine emails, filling out standard expense forms, organizing digital folders, and attending status update meetings where no actual decisions are made. The tragedy of the modern workplace is that we have allowed shallow work to completely consume our schedules. We spend 8 to 10 hours a day swimming in the shallow end of the pool, endlessly reacting to other people's requests and putting out minor fires. We feel incredibly busy, and we end the day feeling exhausted, but when we look back on what we actually produced, the results are shockingly minimal. To build a system for extreme daily productivity, you must drastically shift the ratio of deep work to shallow work in your life. You cannot eliminate shallow work completely. Emails must be answered, and bills must be paid. But you must stop allowing shallow work to interrupt and destroy your capacity for deep work. This is the entire purpose of the time blocking system. Time blocking is the physical mechanism you use to defend your deep work from the endless onslaught of shallow distractions. When you look at the habits of the most successful and prolific people in the world, you do not see them frantically multitasking. You see them engaging in massive, uninterrupted blocks of deep work. Cal Newport research highlighted the profound difference between a schedule built on deep work versus a schedule built on chaotic distraction. He noted that a professional who strictly structures their week using time blocks and dedicates just 3 to 4 hours a day to pure, uninterrupted deep work can easily produce the exact same amount of high-quality output in a 40-hour week as a distracted, fragmented worker produces in an agonizing 60-hour week. Time blocking does not just make you more productive. It literally buys you your life back. Now, we must transition from theory to extreme action. How do you actually build this system? How do you take a chaotic, unpredictable life and mold it into a highly efficient, time-blocked masterpiece? You must follow a strict, step-by-step framework. Step 1 in building your time-blocking system is to start with a blank canvas and immediately lock in your non-negotiable routines. You cannot begin by scheduling your work. You must begin by scheduling your biological necessities and your personal boundaries. Open your digital calendar or take a physical planner. First, block out your sleep. If you need 8 hours of sleep, draw a hard line across your calendar. Next, block out your foundational energy routines that we discussed in Chapter 1. Block out 30 minutes for your morning exercise. Block out time for your meals. Block out the time you spend commuting or helping your family in the morning. These are your anchors. By putting your personal health and energy maintenance on the calendar first, you send a powerful psychological signal to yourself. You are declaring that your well-being is the non-negotiable foundation upon which all of your professional success will be built. Step 2 is the most critical action in the entire system. You must schedule your deep work blocks. Look at your energy investment portfolio and identify the heavy investment tasks that will actually move the needle in your career. Then recall your specific biological chronotype. If you are a lion whose energy peaks early in the morning, you must immediately reserve the block from 8 in the morning until 10 in the morning exclusively for deep work. If you are a wolf whose energy peaks later, you might block out 3 in the afternoon to 5 in the afternoon. When you create a deep work block on your calendar, you must treat it with the exact same level of respect and commitment as you would a meeting with a highly important client. You would never casually walk out of a meeting with an important investor just because your phone buzzed. You must extend that same respect to yourself. During a scheduled deep work block, you must become unreachable. Close your email program entirely. Put your smartphone in another room or activate a strict Do Not Disturb mode. If you work in an open office, put on large, visible headphones to visually signal to your colleagues that you are deep in concentration. Your singular goal during this block is to apply massive, relentless focus to one specific task. You will be amazed at how much you can accomplish when you simply stop giving the world permission to interrupt you. Step 3 is the art of batching your shallow work. Once your deep work is safely protected on your calendar, you must figure out what to do with the endless stream of minor tasks that make up your shallow work. The biggest mistake people make is scattering these small tasks throughout their day. They check their email for 5 minutes, then work for 10 minutes, then send a quick message, then work for another 10 minutes. This guarantees a day destroyed by attention residue. To solve this, you must build a system of batching. Batching means taking a large number of small, similar low cognitive tasks and grouping them together into one dedicated time block. Instead of leaving your email inbox open all day and reacting to messages as they arrive, you will schedule 2 specific blocks of time exclusively for email. You might create a 30-minute email block at 11 in the morning and another 30-minute block at 4 in the afternoon. For the rest of the day, your email is completely closed. When your scheduled email block arrives, you do not just casually read messages. You attack the inbox with high efficiency. Because you have gathered all these small tasks into one batch, your brain does not have to constantly context switch. You are entirely in an administrative mindset. You reply, delete, file, and process messages rapidly. When the 30 minutes are over, you close the program and walk away. By batching your shallow work, you compress tasks that used to bleed across your entire day into highly contained, efficient windows. You stop being a servant to your inbox, and you force your communication to fit into your schedule rather than allowing it to dictate your schedule. Step 4 is the secret ingredient that makes the time-blocking system actually survive contact with reality. This is the implementation of buffer blocks. When people first attempt time blocking, they almost always make a fatal planning error. They schedule every single minute of their day from morning until night with back-to-back tasks. They leave absolutely zero empty space. This hyper-optimized calendar looks beautiful on a computer screen, but it is incredibly fragile in the real world. The reality of life is that things take longer than we expect. This is a cognitive bias known as the planning fallacy. We naturally underestimate the time required to complete a project, even if we have done similar projects in the past. Furthermore, the real world is full of unpredictable emergencies. A client calls with a crisis, a software program crashes, or a meeting runs 20 minutes late. If your calendar is scheduled back-to-back with zero gaps, a single 20-minute delay at 10 in the morning will cause a chain reaction that destroys every subsequent time block for the rest of the day. When the schedule collapses, people get frustrated, they abandon the system entirely, and they fall back into the chaotic trap of the open to-do list. To build a resilient system, you must intentionally schedule blank space. You must build buffer blocks. A buffer block is a designated period of time, usually 30 to 60 minutes, where absolutely nothing is scheduled. You should strategically place a buffer block in the middle of your day, perhaps right before lunch, and another one toward the end of your day. These buffer blocks act as shock absorbers for your schedule. If your morning deep work block takes longer than expected, you simply let it overflow into the buffer block without ruining the rest of your day. If an unexpected crisis arises, you have a pre-allocated block of time to deal with it calmly. And if a miracle happens and everything goes exactly according to plan, your buffer block becomes a period of unexpected rest, or an opportunity to get ahead on tasks for the following day. Buffer blocks eliminate the stress of the rigid schedule. They acknowledge the chaotic nature of life while still maintaining a powerful framework of productivity. Let us take a moment to address the intense psychological resistance you might feel when implementing this system. Time blocking requires you to take radical ownership of your attention, and this can be uncomfortable. It forces you to confront exactly how much time you have been wasting on trivial distractions. Furthermore, when you stop constantly checking your messages and start disappearing into deep work blocks, you will inevitably face pushback from the world around you. We live in a culture of performative busyness. People want instant responses to their messages because it makes them feel acknowledged. A global survey conducted by Economist Impact found that 60% of workers feel pressured to quickly respond to incoming chat messages, and over 60% feel like they have to be available all the time. When you start time blocking, you are intentionally breaking this cycle of instant gratification. You are saying no to the urgent in order to say yes to the important. You must be prepared to defend your time blocks with polite but absolute firmness. If a colleague asks you for a quick favor during your scheduled deep work block, you must empower yourself to decline immediately. You do not need to be rude. You can simply say, "I am currently locked into a focused work block for the next hour, but I will come find you as soon as I am finished." This type of communication sets clear boundaries. At first, people might be surprised by your lack of instant availability, but very quickly, a remarkable shift will occur. People will begin to respect your time because they see that you respect your own time. They will realize that when you are working, you are intensely focused, and when you are available, you are fully present. Ultimately, your boss and your clients do not pay you to be constantly available on a chat application. They pay you to produce exceptional results, and exceptional results only come from deep, uninterrupted work. To further enhance your time-blocking system, you must embrace the concept of single tasking. We have already established that multitasking is a cognitive failure. Single tasking is the intentional practice of bringing all of your mental and physical resources to bear on one singular objective until it is either completed or the time block expires. This requires intense discipline because the moment a task becomes slightly difficult or frustrating, your brain will desperately crave a distraction. It will urge you to just check your phone for a quick hit of dopamine. You must train yourself to sit with the discomfort of hard work. When you feel the urge to break your focus, observe the feeling without acting on it. Recognize it as just a temporary wave of mental fatigue. Take a deep breath. Reorient your eyes to the work in front of you and push through the resistance. This is how you build cognitive endurance. Just as a weightlifter builds muscle by pushing against physical resistance, you build your ability to perform deep work by pushing against the internal resistance of distraction. Every time you successfully ignore a distraction and maintain your focus during a time block, you are physically strengthening the neural pathways in your brain associated with sustained concentration. Let us walk through a detailed real-life scenario of how a master of time blocking designs their day, combining all the elements we have discussed. Imagine a professional named David, who is a software developer and a natural bear chronotype. David used to work from a massive, overwhelming to-do list and constantly felt behind. Now, he operates on a ruthless time-block system. David wakes up and executes his non-negotiable morning routine. He exercises, eats a healthy breakfast, and arrives at his desk at 8:30 in the morning. He does not open his email. He knows that looking at his inbox will immediately flood his brain with other people's priorities and trigger attention residue. Instead, his first time block from 8:30 to 9 is dedicated entirely to planning and review. He looks at his overarching goals, reviews his calendar, and mentally prepares for the day. At 9 in the morning, David initiates his first massive deep work block. He knows his bear chronotype gives him peak cognitive energy in the mid-morning. He puts his phone in a drawer, turns off all computer notifications, and puts on his noise-cancelling headphones. For 2 straight hours, from 9 until 11, David writes complex code. He does not check a single message. He exists entirely within a flow state. He encounters difficult logic problems, but instead of seeking the escape of distraction, he wrestles with the problems until he solves them. Because he is single-tasking without interruption, he writes cleaner, more efficient code in these 2 hours than he used to write in an entire day of fragmented multitasking. At 11 in the morning, the deep work block ends. David is tired, but it is a deeply satisfying, productive fatigue. Now he transitions to a batching block for shallow work. From 11 until 11:30, he opens his email and his team chat program. He rapidly processes the messages that accumulated during his deep work session. He answers questions, updates project statuses, and clears his inbox. Because his brain is entirely in administrative mode, he executes these tasks with lightning speed. From 11:30 to 12, David has scheduled his first buffer block. He realizes that one of his emails requires a bit more research than he anticipated. Because he has this empty buffer time, he handles the research without stressing about being late for his next task. The crisis is smoothly absorbed by the system. He takes a full offline lunch break to recover his energy. When he returns in the afternoon, his biological energy is naturally dipping. He does not try to force another deep coding session. Instead, he uses the afternoon blocks for collaborative work and moderate investment tasks. He has a team meeting blocked from 1 to 2. From 2 to 3, he does code reviews for his colleagues. At 3:30, he has a final 30-minute batching block for shallow work. He checks his email one last time for the day, ensuring nothing urgent is left unresolved. He sends his final replies and officially closes the communication applications. Finally, from 4 until 4:30, David executes a vital time block known as the shutdown routine. This is the bridge between work and personal life. During this block, he reviews what he accomplished, updates his tracking systems, and most importantly, he time blocks his schedule for the following day. By making tomorrow decisions today, he saves himself from decision fatigue in the morning. When 4:30 arrives, David shuts down his computer and walks away from his desk. He does not check work emails on his phone during the evening. He has left nothing open-ended. He is completely free to rest, knowing that his system has extracted maximum value from his workday. David's example proves that extreme productivity is not about running faster on the hamster wheel. It is about intentionally designing the wheel itself. Time blocking gives you the power of intentionality. It forces you to confront the reality of your limited time and demands that you make hard choices about what truly matters. As you begin to implement this system, you must be patient with yourself. You are trying to break years of bad habits and digital addiction. In the first few weeks, your time blocks will probably fail. You will underestimate how long a task takes. You will succumb to a distraction, or an emergency will blow up your afternoon. This is completely normal. The goal of time blocking is not perfection. The goal is constant, structural improvement. When a schedule fails, you do not abandon the system. You simply look at the failure logically, figure out why it happened, and adjust your blocks for the next day. Perhaps you need a larger buffer block. Perhaps your deep work session needs to be shorter. You tweak the system until it perfectly matches the reality of your life. You must also recognize the profound emotional relief that comes from a successful time-blocking system. When you operate from a to-do list, your work feels infinite and overwhelming, but a calendar is finite. When you look at a time-blocked day, you see a defined beginning and a defined end. You know exactly what is expected of you in any given moment. If it is 10 in the morning and your calendar says you should be writing a proposal, that is all you have to worry about. You do not need to feel guilty about the emails you are not answering, because you know you have a dedicated block for emails at noon. This completely eliminates the background anxiety that plagues most modern workers. Time blocking gives you permission to focus entirely on the present moment. To make your system truly bulletproof, you must optimize the environment in which you perform your deep work blocks. Your environment must act as a fortress against context switching. If you work from home, you must create a dedicated physical space that is used exclusively for deep work. It should not be the same place you watch television or eat your meals. When you sit in that specific chair, your brain should automatically receive a contextual cue that it is time to engage in intense cognitive effort. Keep this space brutally minimalist. Remove any visual clutter that might catch your eye and trigger a tangent thought. If you work in a bustling corporate office, controlling your environment is more difficult, but it is not impossible. You must utilize physical signals. As mentioned before, large headphones are the universal symbol for do not disturb. If you have an office door, close it during your deep work blocks. If you are in an open plan space, consider booking a small conference room just for yourself for 90 minutes. You are fighting a war for your attention, and you must use every tool at your disposal to defend your territory. Let us delve deeper into the exact mechanics of dealing with digital distractions, as these are the most pervasive enemies of the time block. Your smartphone is a marvel of engineering, but it is also a slot machine designed by some of the smartest psychologists in the world to hijack your attention. Every ping, buzz, and red notification badge triggers a tiny release of dopamine in your brain, creating a literal addiction loop. You cannot rely on sheer willpower to ignore your phone during a deep work block. Your willpower will eventually deplete, and the phone will win. You must engineer a system of absolute digital isolation. Before you begin a deep work block, you must go into the settings of your phone and activate the most restrictive Do Not Disturb mode available. Better yet, physically remove the device from your line of sight. Put it in a drawer in another room. Out of sight is literally out of mind. Research shows that just having a smartphone visible on your desk, even if it is turned off, significantly reduces your cognitive capacity because your brain is subconsciously expending energy, actively trying not to look at it. The same ruthless approach must be applied to your computer. Close every single web browser tab that is not absolutely essential to the specific task you are working on. If you are writing a document, you should only have the document open. If you need to do the research in a separate time block, gather your notes, and then close the internet browser before you begin writing. There are powerful software applications available that can temporarily block your access to distracting websites or even shut down your access to the entire internet for a predetermined amount of time. Use these tools to enforce your boundaries. By removing the physical possibility of context switching, you force your brain to settle into the deep work. As you progress on this journey, you will realize that the magic of time blocking extends far beyond your professional life. Once you master the skill of allocating your time intentionally, you can apply it to your personal growth, your relationships, and your hobbies. If you want to learn a new language, write a novel, or get in the best physical shape of your life, you do not just hope you will find the time. You create a non-negotiable time block for it. You begin to treat your personal aspirations with the exact same level of professional respect that you give to your career. This is how you transition from living a reactive life to living a fiercely proactive life. You must internalize the fact that your attention is your most valuable asset. In an economy that is increasingly driven by information and complex problem-solving, the ability to concentrate without distraction is becoming the ultimate competitive advantage. While everyone else is fragmenting their days into tiny, useless slivers of attention, bouncing between social media and superficial emails, you will be cultivating the rare and incredibly powerful skill of deep work. You will become a master of your craft simply because you possess the discipline to sit still and focus. The transition to a time-blocked, deep, work-oriented life will not be completely smooth. There will be days when the chaos of the world breaches your defenses. There will be days when you feel too tired to focus. Do not view these days as failures. View them as data. Every time your system is challenged, you learn something new about your environment, your energy limits, and your own psychology. You use that data to refine your calendar, build better buffers, and strengthen your boundaries for the next day. Remember the devastating statistics we discussed at the beginning of this chapter. The average person is losing hundreds of hours every year to meaningless distractions. They are sacrificing their potential on the altar of the context switch. They are working longer and longer hours, sacrificing their health and their families, only to produce mediocre results. You do not have to live that way. You have a choice. You can choose to stop operating from a wish list and start operating from a strategic plan. You can choose to respect the limits of your own biology and the absolute boundaries of time. You can choose to batch the shallow demands of the world and build an impenetrable fortress around your deep, meaningful work. Empower yourself to take absolute control of your schedule. Your time is finite, but your potential is limitless when that time is directed with intense, unyielding focus. Open your calendar right now. Start with tomorrow. Block out your sleep. Block out your recovery. Find your peak energy window and draw a heavy line around it. Write the words deep work inside that block and defend it as if your future depends on it, because it absolutely does. Step out of the shallow water of constant distraction. The work that will define your career, change your life, and leave a lasting impact on the world requires depth. It is time to dive in. Embrace the magic of the time block. Cultivate the discipline of single tasking and watch as your daily productivity transforms into something truly extreme. You have now mastered the internal engine of energy and the external framework of the blocked schedule. You know when to work and exactly how to protect that time. But even with perfect energy and a perfect calendar, you still face one major hurdle. You are still fighting against the friction of human nature and the countless tiny decisions that drain your willpower every single day. In the next chapter, we will eliminate that friction entirely. We will explore how to engineer your physical and digital environment so that success becomes automatic, willpower becomes irrelevant, and your extreme productivity runs completely on autopilot. Prepare to design your surroundings for absolute victory. Chapter 3. Engineering your environment for automatic success. In the previous chapters, we completely transformed how you view your daily output. You learned that extreme productivity is not about managing your time, but rather about managing your biological energy. You discovered your personal biological rhythms. You categorized your work into an energy investment portfolio, and you learned how to protect your peak energy windows by building a rigid, time-blocked calendar. You now possess the internal engine of energy and the external framework of a schedule. However, even with a perfectly optimized energy system and a beautifully designed daily calendar, you are still human. There will be days when you wake up feeling completely unmotivated. There will be moments when your scheduled deep work block arrives, and instead of diving into your complex project, you feel an overwhelming urge to lay on the couch, turn on the television, and scroll mindlessly through your phone. When this happens, you will likely feel a deep sense of guilt. You will look at your carefully planned schedule, look at your lack of progress, and blame yourself. For generations, the modern self-help industry has sold us a toxic and factually incorrect lie about why we fail. They told us that the secret to ultimate success is simply having more willpower. They told us that if we want to be highly productive, we just need to try harder. We need to be more disciplined. We need to force ourselves to do the difficult work, no matter how we feel. We need to grind through the resistance. This philosophy of brute force sounds highly motivational, and it makes for great speeches, but it completely ignores the reality of human biology and human psychology. Relying on sheer willpower is a guaranteed strategy for long-term failure. Willpower is not a magical force that you can summon on command. Willpower is a biological function, and like all biological functions, it has strict limitations. To understand why willpower is the wrong tool for extreme daily productivity, we must look at the groundbreaking research of a highly respected social psychologist named Dr. Roy Baumeister. In the late 1990s, Dr. Baumeister and his research team conducted a series of fascinating psychological experiments that fundamentally changed how we understand human self-control. Dr. Baumeister wanted to prove that willpower is not an unlimited personality trait, but rather a finite resource that drains away as you use it. He called this phenomenon ego depletion, which is more commonly known today as decision fatigue. One of the most famous experiments conducted in his laboratory involved hungry college students, a plate of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies, and a bowl of raw radishes. The researchers brought the students into a room that was filled with the delicious, overwhelming smell of the freshly baked cookies. The students were divided into two different groups. The first group was allowed to eat the warm chocolate chip cookies. The second group was told they were not allowed to touch the cookies under any circumstances, and instead they had to eat the raw radishes. The researchers then left the room, secretly observing the students to ensure the radish group did not cheat. The radish group had to exert a massive amount of willpower to sit in a room smelling of cookies, staring at the cookies, and forcing themselves to eat bitter radishes instead. After this initial food test, the researchers brought both groups of students into another room and gave them a complex geometry puzzle to solve. What the students did not know was that the puzzle was mathematically impossible to solve. The researchers were not testing their intelligence. They were testing their persistence. They wanted to see how long the students would try to solve the frustrating puzzle before giving up. The results were absolutely profound. The students who were allowed to eat the cookies, and therefore did not have to use any willpower in the first room, worked on the impossible puzzle for an average of 19 minutes before finally giving up. However, the students who had to eat the radishes, the students who had already drained a significant portion of their willpower resisting the cookies, gave up on the puzzle after only 8 minutes. They quit more than twice as fast. This landmark study proved a vital scientific reality. Your ability to focus, your ability to persist through difficult challenges, and your ability to resist distractions all draw from the exact same limited reservoir of mental energy. Every single time you make a choice, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem, you burn a tiny amount of your daily willpower. When your alarm goes off in the morning, you make a decision to get up or hit the snooze button. You make a decision about what clothes to wear. You make a decision about what to eat for breakfast. You decide which route to take to work. You decide whether to answer a phone call or let it go to voicemail. By the time you actually sit down at your desk to begin your deep work, you have already made dozens, if not hundreds, of small decisions. Your willpower battery is already draining. As the day progresses and you continue to make choices about emails, meetings, and project details, your decision fatigue becomes severe. When your willpower battery is completely drained, your brain undergoes a shift. It desperately seeks the path of least resistance to conserve energy. It stops making deliberate, rational choices based on your long-term goals, and it begins to run entirely on autopilot. It defaults to whatever is easiest and most comforting in that exact moment. This is exactly why you make your worst choices at the end of the day. It is why you can easily eat a healthy salad for lunch. But when you come home exhausted at 7 in the evening, you order a massive pizza. It is why you can focus during a morning meeting, but by 4 in the afternoon, you abandon your spreadsheet and spend an hour watching meaningless videos on the internet. You did not suddenly become a lazy person. You simply ran out of willpower, and the phenomenon of decision fatigue took over. Highly successful people understand this biological limitation. This is why former United States President Barack Obama and technology visionary Steve Jobs famously wore the exact same style of clothing every single day. They were not lacking in fashion sense. They were purposely eliminating a daily decision to preserve their limited willpower for choices that actually mattered. If willpower is a finite resource that drains throughout the day, and motivation is merely a temporary feeling that comes and goes, what can you possibly rely on to maintain extreme daily productivity? The answer is your environment. When your brain is tired and your willpower is gone, your environment dictates your actions. If your environment is filled with temptations and distractions, you will surrender to them. But if your physical and digital surroundings are engineered to support your goals, You will automatically make the right choices without needing any willpower at all. You must stop trying to change yourself and start changing your room. To truly grasp the immense power of your environment, we must turn to the world-renowned behavioral scientist, Dr. Wendy Wood. Dr. Wood has spent over 3 decades studying how human habits are formed and how they subconsciously dictate the trajectory of our lives. Her extensive research reveals a statistic that is absolutely staggering. Roughly 43% of everything you do every single day is repeated in the exact same context, usually while you are thinking about something completely different. Almost half of your waking life is performed entirely on autopilot. A habit is essentially a mental shortcut. When you encounter a specific situation repeatedly and you perform an action that provides a reward, your brain wires those elements together to save processing power in the future. Once a habit is fully formed, your conscious mind steps aside, and your environment takes over as the trigger. Dr. Wood conducted a brilliant study to prove that environmental cues are stronger than our conscious desires. She studied people in a movie theater. She took a group of people who had a strong, established habit of eating popcorn at the movies, and she gave them buckets of incredibly stale, week-old popcorn. She also gave the same stale popcorn to people who did not usually eat at the movies. The people without the habit took 1 bite of the terrible popcorn and stopped eating. But the people with the strong movie theater habit ate almost the entire bucket of stale, disgusting popcorn. When questioned later, they admitted they hated the taste, but they kept eating it anyway. Why did they keep eating it? Because the dark environment of the movie theater, the glowing screen and the bucket in their hands sent a powerful, automatic signal to their brain. The environment triggered the behavior so strongly that it completely overrode their conscious dislike of the food. This study proves that you are not always the rational master of your own actions. Your surroundings are constantly pulling invisible strings, guiding your behavior toward whatever is most habitual and most accessible. If willpower is weak and environmental habits are this powerful, the ultimate system for extreme daily productivity is to engineer an environment where good habits happen automatically and bad habits are nearly impossible to execute. The fundamental scientific principle you will use to achieve this environmental mastery is the concept of friction. In physics, friction is the resistance that one surface or object encounters when moving over another. In behavioral psychology, friction refers to the number of steps, the amount of time, and the level of physical or mental effort required to perform an action. Human beings are biologically wired to conserve energy. We will almost always choose the path of least resistance. Therefore, if an action requires a high amount of friction, we are very unlikely to do it. If an action requires almost zero friction, we will do it automatically. Your job as the architect of your life is to aggressively manipulate the friction in your environment. You must add massive amounts of friction to the negative behaviors that destroy your productivity. At the same time, you must ruthlessly eliminate all friction from the positive behaviors you want to perform. Let us explore exactly how to do this in the physical world. Let us first examine how to add friction to your bad habits. Suppose you have a terrible habit of coming home from work and immediately turning on the television, wasting 3 hours of your evening when you should be reading or working on a personal business project. Relying on willpower means sitting on your couch, staring at the remote control resting on the coffee table, and trying to force yourself not to pick it up. Your willpower might win for 10 minutes, but eventually your tired brain will crave the easy entertainment, and you will pick up the remote. The friction to watch television in this scenario is basically zero. You just reach out your hand and press a button. To engineer a system of success, you must make watching the television incredibly difficult. When you finish watching a specific program on a Sunday night, you do not just turn off the screen. You take the remote control, remove the batteries, and put the batteries in a kitchen drawer. You take the remote control and place it in a box in your bedroom closet. Finally, you physically unplug the television from the wall outlet. You have now added a massive amount of friction to the habit. The next evening, when you come home tired and feel the automatic urge to watch television, you cannot just press a button. You have to walk to the television, plug it in, walk to your bedroom, get the remote, walk to the kitchen, get the batteries, put the batteries in the remote, and then turn it on. That process takes perhaps 2 minutes of physical effort, but to a brain looking for a quick, easy dopamine hit, those 2 minutes feel like an impossible mountain to climb. The friction interrupts the automatic habit. Your brain will register the effort required, give up on the idea of watching television, and look for an easier alternative. You must apply this strategy of adding friction to every single bad habit in your physical space. If you want to stop eating junk food while working from home, do not keep the cookies in a clear jar on your kitchen counter where you can see them every time you walk by. Do not even keep them in the front of the pantry. Put them on the highest shelf in an opaque container pushed all the way to the back behind heavy bags of flour. Make it a physical chore to reach them. The friction gives your conscious mind enough time to wake up and intervene before you make a mistake. Conversely, you must become obsessed with removing friction from your good habits. You want your productive behaviors to be so easy that it requires more effort to avoid them than it does to execute them. If your goal is to read more educational books to improve your skills, do not leave your book on a high shelf in the guest room. When you want to read, the effort of getting up and walking to the other room is enough friction to stop you. Instead, leave the book resting directly on the center of your pillow every single morning. When you go to bed at night, you physically have to pick up the book to go to sleep. The friction of reading is zero. The book is already in your hands. If your goal is to wake up and immediately exercise, you must eliminate all morning friction. Do not wake up and then try to decide what shirt to wear, what shorts to wear, and where your shoes are. A sleepy brain hates making decisions. Instead, engineer the environment the night before. Lay your workout clothes perfectly folded on the floor right next to your bed. Put your socks on top of your shoes. Place a full bottle of water on your bedside table. When your alarm goes off, you do not have to think. You simply step out of bed and your feet land on your clothes. The path of least resistance is to put them on and begin moving. If your goal is to drink more water while you work to maintain your physical energy, do not rely on remembering to walk to the kitchen every hour. Buy a massive glass bottle, fill it with water every morning, and place it directly on your desk, right next to your computer screen. You will instinctively drink from it throughout the day, simply because it is right in front of you. By constantly smoothing the path for your good habits and building walls around your bad habits, you remove willpower from the equation entirely. Your environment pulls you towards success. While your physical environment is crucial, we must urgently address the second half of your surroundings. Your digital environment is arguably the most dangerous and pervasive threat to your extreme daily productivity. We live in an era where our physical reality and our digital reality are completely intertwined. You might have a perfectly clean, minimalist wooden desk and a quiet, beautiful office. But if the computer sitting on that desk is filled with popping notifications, 10 open browser tabs, and flashing messaging applications, your environment is actually a chaotic, highly distracting war zone. We must confront the terrifying reality of our collective digital addiction. The statistics regarding our screen time are a massive, blaring wake-up call. According to comprehensive behavioral research and surveys published in late 2024 and 2025 by health data organizations like Harmony Healthcare IT, the average American adult now spends over 5 hours a day just looking at their smartphone. For younger generations, like Generation Z, that number climbs to an astonishing 6.5 to 9 hours a day just on their phones. When you combine phone usage with the time spent looking at computer monitors for work and television screens for entertainment, the global average screen time is hovering around 7 hours every single day. Furthermore, data indicates that the average person checks their smartphone 58 times a day or more. Think about the magnitude of those numbers. 7 hours a day is nearly half of your waking life spent staring into a glowing rectangle. Every time you check your phone, every time you respond to a vibration in your pocket, you are completely destroying your focus and suffering from the attention residue we discussed in the previous chapter. You cannot achieve extreme daily productivity if you are donating half of your conscious existence to a screen. You must understand what you are fighting against. Your smartphone and the applications on it are not simply neutral tools waiting for your command. They are highly engineered psychological weapons designed by some of the most brilliant technologists and behavioral scientists in the world. These companies spend billions of dollars analyzing human psychology to figure out exactly how to hijack your attention and keep you scrolling. They understand the dopamine system in your brain better than you do. Every single notification, every red circle with a number inside it, and every vibration is a carefully calculated environmental cue designed to trigger a habit loop. The applications use a psychological concept called variable ratio reinforcement. This is the exact same psychological mechanism used in casino slot machines. When you pull the lever on a slot machine, you do not know if you will win nothing, win a small amount, or win a massive jackpot. That uncertainty creates an intense surge of anticipation and dopamine in your brain. When you pull out your phone and swipe down to refresh your social media feed or your email inbox, you are pulling the lever on a digital slot machine. You do not know if you will see a boring email, an exciting message from a friend, or a highly controversial news story. Because the reward is unpredictable, your brain becomes addicted to checking. To build a system for extreme daily productivity, you must become a digital minimalist. You must take radical, uncompromising control of your digital environment. You cannot rely on willpower to ignore a vibrating phone. You must engineer the friction so the phone never vibrates in the first place. The first and most critical step in digital environment design is to turn off absolutely every non-essential notification on your smartphone and your computer. Go into the settings of your devices right now. Turn off the notifications for every social media application. Turn off the notifications for news alerts. Turn off the notifications for retail stores. Turn off the notifications for your personal email. The only things that should ever cause your phone to make a noise or vibrate are a direct phone call or a direct text message from a human being. And even those should be silenced during your deep work blocks. You must declare that your attention belongs to you. You will check your applications when you intentionally decide to check them on your schedule. You will not allow a software program to dictate when you should look at a screen. The next step is to clean up your digital visual environment. When you unlock your phone, your home screen should not be a colorful wall of temptations. Move all of your distracting applications off the first page of your phone. Hide them in a folder on the third page. By doing this, you add a few seconds of friction to the habit of mindlessly opening them. You have to actively search for the application, which gives you time to ask yourself if you really need to open it. Keep your home screen completely minimal. Only display applications that serve as tools, such as your calendar, your map, your camera, and your notes. Another incredibly effective and slightly extreme way to add friction to your phone usage is to change the color settings of your screen to grayscale. In the accessibility settings of most modern smartphones, you can turn off all color, making the entire screen black, white, and gray. This is a profound psychological hack. The bright reds, vibrant blues, and neon greens used by application designers are purposely chosen to stimulate your brain and draw your eye. When you remove the color, your screen suddenly becomes dull, flat, and visually uninteresting. Your brain no longer receives the same bright visual stimulation, and the slot machine effect is drastically reduced. You will find that you naturally spend significantly less time staring at a gray screen. You must apply this exact same digital minimalism to your computer workspace. Do not save hundreds of random files on your computer desktop. That visual clutter drains your mental energy every time you look at it. Create a simple, organized folder system. When you are working on a heavy investment task during a deep work time block, you must close every single web browser tab that is not directly related to that specific task. If you have your email inbox open in a tab right next to your writing document, the friction to check your email is zero. You will eventually click it. Close the tab. If you need to check email, make it a deliberate action that requires you to open a new window and type in the web address. That tiny amount of friction is often enough to keep you focused on your work. Now that you deeply understand the mechanics of decision fatigue, the power of environmental habits, and the absolute necessity of manipulating friction in both your physical and digital spaces, it is time to build the ultimate daily system. This is the system that ties all of these concepts together and guarantees that you will wake up ready to execute. This system is known as the night before routine. Amateurs believe that a productive day begins when the alarm clock rings in the morning. Professionals understand that extreme daily productivity actually begins the night before. If you wait until the morning to figure out what you're going to do, you have already lost. You will wake up groggy, you will look at a messy room, you will look at a chaotic email inbox, and the decision fatigue will hit you immediately. You will spend your first hour of the day wandering around, reacting to random demands, and wasting your precious, high-quality morning energy just trying to get organized. The night before routine is a non-negotiable system designed to entirely eliminate morning decision fatigue. It requires you to spend just 15 to 20 minutes at the end of your day preparing your physical and mental environment for the next day. This short investment of time acts as a massive force multiplier for your productivity. When you engineer your launchpad the night before, you wake up and step onto a frictionless path to success. The night before routine consists of 3 mandatory steps. Step 1 is to completely clear your workspace. Your desk is a physical manifestation of your mind. If you leave your desk covered in coffee cups, random sticky notes, printed documents, and tangled cords at the end of the day, you are leaving a trap for yourself. When you sit down the next morning, your brain immediately has to process all of that visual clutter. It feels overwhelming. You will waste energy cleaning it up, or worse, you will just ignore it and let the subconscious stress drain your focus. Before you leave your workspace for the evening, take 5 minutes to reset it to 0. Throw away the trash, take the dishes to the kitchen, put the pens back in the drawer, stack the necessary documents neatly, close all the unnecessary programs on your computer. When you sit down the next morning at a perfectly clean, empty desk, you will feel a surge of calm clarity. The physical environment is inviting you to do deep, focused work. Step 2 of the routine is to lay out everything you will physically need for the next morning. We discussed this briefly regarding exercise clothes, but it applies to your entire morning process. You must eliminate all trivial choices from your morning. Decide exactly what clothes you're going to wear to work and hang them clearly on a hook. Pack your work bag. Put your keys and your wallet in the exact same place near the door. Prepare the coffee machine so all you have to do is press a single button. Prepare your lunch and put it in a container in the front of the refrigerator. Every single decision you make the night before is a decision you do not have to make the next morning. You are hoarding your morning willpower like gold. saving it for the heavy investment tasks that actually matter. Step 3 is the absolute most valuable part of the night before routine. You must select your single most important task for the following day, and you must make it highly visible. Do not look at a list of 30 things and vaguely hope to get them done. Look at your energy investment portfolio and your time-blocked calendar. Identify the one single heavy investment task that will have the biggest impact on your career or your life. What is the one thing that, if you completed it tomorrow, would make the entire day a massive success? Once you have identified this single most important task, you must engineer a physical cue in your environment to ensure you do not ignore it. Take a physical piece of paper or a bright sticky note. Write down the name of the task in large, bold letters. Then, place that piece of paper directly in the center of your clean desk, resting on top of your computer keyboard or on the closed lid of your laptop. Think about the profound psychological difference this creates. Imagine a morning without this routine. You wake up tired, you stumble through a messy house, you sit down at a cluttered desk, and you open your laptop. The first thing you see is your email inbox, filled with 50 urgent requests from other people. You immediately go into reactive mode. You start answering emails, your energy drains, and you completely forget about your own goals. Now, imagine the morning engineered by the night before routine. You wake up and your clothes are waiting for you. The coffee is ready. You sit down at a perfectly clean, calm desk. You cannot even open your laptop without physically touching the piece of paper that holds your single most important task. Before the world has a chance to demand anything from you, your environment has clearly directed your focus toward your ultimate priority. You do not have to think. You do not have to decide. You just have to execute. You sit down, initiate your first deep work time block, and attack the task with maximum energy. By 10 in the morning, you have accomplished more than most people will accomplish all week. This is what it means to build systems for extreme daily productivity. You must stop relying on the fantasy of endless willpower and the fickle emotion of motivation. Motivation will abandon you when you are tired, hungry, or stressed out. Willpower will drain away with every email you answer and every choice you make. But a well-engineered environment is permanent. A frictionless system runs automatically. You are the ultimate architect of your own reality. You have the power to design a world around you that naturally elevates you to greatness. You must look at every room in your house, every icon on your digital screens, and every step in your daily routine, and ask yourself a simple question. Is this environment pulling me toward my goals, or is it pushing me toward distraction? Empower yourself to make the hard, necessary changes today. Unplug the television. Hide the junk food. Put the educational book on your pillow. Delete the highly addictive social media applications from your phone. Turn your screen to grayscale. Clear your desk tonight. Write down your single most important task. When you build a physical and digital fortress of focus, success ceases to be a struggle. It becomes the default outcome of your daily existence. You stop fighting yourself, and you let your environment do the heavy lifting. You become an unstoppable force of execution simply because you designed a world where doing the right thing is the absolute easiest thing to do. We have now established the trinity of personal extreme productivity. You have mastered your biological energy, you have built an impenetrable fortress around your time blocks, and you have engineered your physical and digital environment to make execution automatic. You have optimized yourself, but productivity does not happen in a vacuum. You live in a world full of other people, endless requests, and overflowing inboxes. In the next chapter, we will shift our focus outward. We will learn how to violently protect the systems you have built by mastering the 2-minute rule, eliminating the unnecessary, and practicing the profound art of subtraction. Prepare to cut the fat from your life. Chapter 4. The 2-minute rule and the art of subtraction. Welcome to Chapter 4. In the first 3 chapters, we built a formidable foundation. We optimized your internal biological energy. We constructed a bulletproof external schedule using time blocking. We engineered your physical and digital environments to ensure that doing the right thing happens almost automatically. You might think that you are now ready to take on the world, to add dozens of new projects to your life, and to conquer an endless list of goals. But this is where most ambitious people make a fatal mistake. They believe that extreme productivity is about addition. They believe it is about doing more things faster. The profound truth of extreme daily productivity is the exact opposite. True productivity is not about addition. It is about aggressive, ruthless subtraction. If you want to go faster, you do not just build a bigger engine. You have to take weight out of the car. We live in a society that is completely obsessed with addition. When we face a problem, our instinct is always to add a solution. If we are struggling to manage our tasks, we download a new application. If we want to improve our health, we buy new supplements. If a business is struggling, management hires more consultants or adds more meetings. We almost never consider that the answer to our problems might be found by taking things away. There is an ancient philosophical concept known as via negativa, which translates from Latin as the negative way. It is the principle that we can vastly improve our lives, not by adding good things, but by removing the bad things, the inefficient things, and the distracting things. Think about a sculptor looking at a massive block of marble. The sculptor does not create a beautiful statue by adding more marble. The sculptor creates the masterpiece by chiseling away everything that is not the statue. Your time and your energy are the block of marble. To reveal your greatest potential, you must become a master of the chisel. Think about your own life right now. Your calendar is likely suffocating under the weight of obligations you do not truly care about. Your mind is cluttered with trivial worries and unchecked emails. Your desk is covered in physical items you do not need. Every single item you add to your life, whether it is a physical object, a new social commitment, or a new digital tool, requires a continuous tax on your mental energy and your time. You have to maintain it, think about it, and manage it. To achieve extreme daily productivity, you must embrace the philosophy of subtraction. You must become an expert at identifying the non-essential elements of your life and eliminating them completely. You must cut the fat so that only the pure muscle remains. This chapter is dedicated to the systems of subtraction. The first step in mastering subtraction is learning how to filter the massive amount of information and requests that flood your life every single day. Most people operate their lives in a constant state of panic and reaction. Whenever a new email arrives, a phone rings, or someone makes a request, they immediately drop what they are doing and respond. They treat every incoming demand as if it is an absolute emergency. This reactive lifestyle is driven by a fundamental failure to distinguish between what is urgent and what is actually important. To understand this crucial distinction, we must look to the history of the 34th President of the United States, Dwight David Eisenhower. Before his presidency, Eisenhower was a 5-star general in the United States Army and served as the supreme commander of the Allied forces in Europe during the Second World War. He was responsible for planning and executing the invasion of Normandy, one of the most complex and high-stakes military operations in human history. After the war, he became the first Supreme Commander of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Throughout his extraordinary life, Eisenhower was forced to make decisions that affected the fate of millions of people, often under unimaginable pressure and facing constant crises. Despite carrying the weight of the free world on his shoulders, Eisenhower was renowned for his incredible ability to remain calm, focused, and highly productive. His secret was a profound understanding of priority. Eisenhower once famously quoted an unnamed university president during a speech, stating that he had two kinds of problems, the urgent and the important. He noted that the urgent are not important, and the important are never urgent. This simple observation forms the basis of a powerful prioritization system, often referred to as the Eisenhower matrix. The system requires you to evaluate every single task, request, and goal in your life through two specific filters. Filter number 1 is urgency. A task is urgent if it requires your immediate attention. It is usually tied to a fast-approaching deadline or another person demanding a quick response. An urgent task makes you feel anxious and reactive. Filter number 2 is importance. A task is important if it contributes directly to your long-term values, your overarching mission, and your highest goals. Important tasks usually do not have an immediate deadline, which makes them very easy to postpone. When you apply these two filters, every task falls into one of 4 distinct categories. Category 1 contains tasks that are both urgent and important. These are real emergencies and critical deadlines. A server crashing at your technology company, a medical emergency in your family, or a major client presentation happening tomorrow. These tasks require your immediate and full attention. You must do them right now. Category 2 contains tasks that are important but not urgent. This is where extreme productivity lives. These are the heavy investment tasks we discussed in Chapter 1. Writing a book, building a strategic business plan, exercising, and spending quality time with your family. These tasks build your future, but because no one is screaming at you to do them today, it is incredibly easy to ignore them. The system dictates that you must schedule these tasks. You must put them into your time-blocked calendar and protect them with your life. You must treat them as if they are emergencies, even when they are not. Category 3 contains tasks that are urgent but not important. This is the danger zone. This category is the absolute graveyard of human potential. These tasks are almost always based on the priorities of other people. A colleague stopping by your desk to complain, a sudden phone call from a salesperson, or a frantic email from a coworker asking for a document they could easily find themselves. Because modern communication tools, like instant messaging and email, deliver these requests instantly, they create a powerful illusion of importance. These tasks feel productive because you are moving fast and solving problems, but they do nothing to advance your own goals. You are simply acting as a servant to the urgency of others. The system dictates that you must delegate these tasks or build boundaries to prevent them from reaching you in the first place. Category 4 contains tasks that are neither urgent nor important. Mindlessly scrolling through social media, watching television shows you do not even enjoy, endlessly refreshing the news, or engaging in workplace gossip. These are pure time wasters. The system dictates that you must completely delete these tasks from your life. They offer absolutely zero value and actively drain your cognitive energy. Subtraction begins by looking at your current to-do list and aggressively moving things into Category 4. You must be brutally honest with yourself. Most of the things you think you have to do are actually just Category 3 distractions, disguising themselves as emergencies. When you stop responding to every artificial emergency, you suddenly free up hours of your day to focus on the deep, Category 2 work that actually transforms your life. Once you have filtered out the meaningless tasks, you are still left with a significant number of small, necessary responsibilities. You have to reply to the brief emails, you have to approve the minor documents, and you have to remember to pay the electric bill. While these tasks seem small and insignificant, they carry a hidden psychological weight that can completely destroy your mental energy if not handled correctly. To understand why small tasks drain so much energy, we have to travel back to the year 1927. A brilliant Russian psychologist named Bluma Zygarnik was sitting in a busy cafe in Vienna with her professor. She began observing the waiters. The cafe was incredibly crowded. and the waiters were taking complex orders from large tables of demanding customers without writing anything down. They kept the entire order perfectly organized in their heads, delivered the food flawlessly, and collected the payment. However, Zygarnik noticed something fascinating. The moment the bill was paid and the transaction was complete, the waiters completely forgot the order. If she asked a waiter just 5 minutes later what a specific table had eaten, their mind was completely blank. Zygarnik returned to her laboratory and conducted a series of rigorous psychological experiments to understand this phenomenon. Her research uncovered a profound aspect of human memory that is now known globally as the Zygarnik effect. She discovered that the human brain is biologically wired to remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks significantly better than completed ones. When you start a task or make a commitment, your brain opens a neurological loop. This open loop creates a form of subconscious psychological tension. Your brain will continuously hold on to the details of that unfinished task, keeping it active in your working memory, acting as an internal alarm clock, constantly reminding you that something is unresolved. The tension is only released, and the memory is only cleared when the task is finally completed. This biological mechanism was very useful for our ancient ancestors who needed to remember to finish building a shelter before winter. But in the modern world of infinite information, the Zygarnik effect is a complete nightmare for productivity. Think about a typical morning at the office. You read an email from a client asking a simple question. You think to yourself that you will reply later. You just opened a Zygarnik loop. You notice a file on your desk that needs to be put in a cabinet. You decide to do it later. You just opened another loop. You remember you need to schedule a dentist appointment, another open loop. By noon, you have 40 or 50 open loops running in the background of your mind. Even when you try to focus on your deep work, your brain is actively burning energy, trying to keep track of all those tiny, unfinished commitments. The psychological tension builds up, resulting in a feeling of severe overwhelm, anxiety, and mental fatigue. You feel incredibly stressed, not because the work is particularly difficult, but because your working memory is completely full of unresolved cognitive clutter. You cannot achieve extreme daily productivity if your brain is constantly nagging you about an email you forgot to send. This is where we introduce the ultimate system for eliminating the Zygarnik effect and subtracting the cognitive weight of small chores. It is a system popularized by the legendary productivity expert David Allen in his framework known as Getting Things Done. It is called the 2-minute rule. The concept is incredibly simple, yet it will completely revolutionize how you move through your day. The 2-minute rule states that if a new task arises and it can be completed in 2 minutes or less, you must do it immediately. You do not write it down on a to-do list. You do not put it in your calendar. You do not tell yourself you will get to it later. You simply execute the action right there in that exact moment, close the loop, and move on. Why is this rule so effective? Because the amount of time and mental energy it takes to evaluate a small task, write it down in a planner, think about it multiple times throughout the day, and then eventually do it later, is actually far greater than the energy required to just do it immediately. Every time you review your to-do list and see a tiny task, your brain has to process it again, burning precious fuel. By executing the task instantly, you prevent the Zygarnik effect from ever taking hold. You never give the task a chance to occupy your valuable mental real estate. Let us look at how this applies to your daily life. You finish drinking your morning coffee. The cup is empty. You could leave it on the counter and tell yourself you will wash it later. That is an open loop. Or you apply the 2-minute rule. It takes exactly 45 seconds to rinse the cup and put it in the dishwasher. You do it instantly. The loop is closed. You receive a message from a colleague asking if you are available for a meeting on Thursday at 3 in the afternoon. You could mark the message as unread and plan to check your schedule later. Open loop. Or you apply the 2-minute rule. It takes 1 minute to open your calendar, verify your availability, and reply with a simple yes. The loop is closed. You finish a deep work session and have a physical document on your desk that belongs in a filing cabinet. Do not put it in a pile to be filed at the end of the week. Stand up, walk to the cabinet and file it. 2 minutes, loop closed. By aggressively applying the 2-minute rule to your environment and your communications, you constantly subtract friction and clutter from your life. You become known as someone who is incredibly responsive and highly organized, simply because you refuse to let tiny tasks accumulate. Your mind remains perfectly clear, calm, and ready to engage in heavy investment tasks. However, there is a critical warning that comes with the 2-minute rule. You must integrate it intelligently with the time-blocking system you built in Chapter 2. You absolutely cannot apply the 2-minute rule while you are in the middle of a scheduled deep work block. If you are writing a complex strategic proposal and your phone buzzes with a quick question, dropping your focus to answer it just because it takes 2 minutes is a catastrophic mistake. That causes context switching and attention residue, which destroys deep work. The 2-minute rule is designed to be used specifically during your scheduled shallow work blocks or during the transitional moments of your day. When you open your email inbox during your dedicated 30-minute batching block, you apply the 2-minute rule ruthlessly. You scan the list of emails. If an email requires a long, thoughtful response, you flag it for a later work block. But if an email requires a simple yes, a quick approval, or forwarding a document, you do it instantly. You clear the small debris out of your way with extreme prejudice. The next phase of the subtraction system goes beyond just handling small tasks quickly. It is about removing recurring tasks from your life entirely, so you never have to think about them again. This is the practice of automating the ordinary. Every single day, you are forced to make decisions about the basic logistics of survival. What to eat, what to wear, and how to manage your basic finances. As we discussed in the previous chapter on decision fatigue, every one of these mundane choices drains a tiny fraction of your willpower. The average adult makes roughly 35,000 remotely conscious decisions every single day. The vast majority of these decisions are completely meaningless to your overall success. To achieve extreme productivity, you must subtract these choices through automation. You must build systems that run your basic life on autopilot. Let us start with your wardrobe. Most people stand in front of their closet every morning for 10 minutes, staring at a massive collection of clothing, trying to piece together an outfit. This is a profound waste of morning energy. You must subtract this decision. Adopt the concept of a capsule wardrobe. This does not mean you have to wear a black turtleneck every day like a Silicon Valley technology founder, unless you want to. But it does mean severely reducing your options to a small collection of high-quality, versatile clothing items that all match perfectly. Buy 5 identical dress shirts in the same color. Buy 3 pairs of identical trousers. When you wake up, you do not have to think. You just reach into the closet, pull out 1 shirt and 1 pair of trousers, and you are dressed. You look professional, and you have preserved your decision-making power for your most important work. Next, automate your nutrition. Food is fuel for your biological energy engine, but deciding what to eat is a constant source of friction. People spend hours every week wondering what to have for lunch, browsing delivery menus, or wandering around the grocery store. Subtract this friction. Eat the exact same breakfast and the exact same lunch every single workday. Pick a breakfast that is high in protein and a lunch that is light and nutritious. Prepare your lunches in bulk on Sunday evening. When Monday arrives, your food decisions are already made. You simply eat the fuel and get back to work. If you crave variety, save your culinary adventures for dinner or the weekends. Keep your workday nutrition completely boring and highly efficient. Financial logistics must also be completely subtracted from your conscious mind. The mental burden of remembering to pay the electricity bill, the internet bill, and the credit card bill is massive. It creates financial anxiety and opens dozens of Zeigarnik loops every month. You must automate your finances. Spend 1 hour setting up automatic payments for every single recurring bill in your life. Set up automatic transfers to your savings and investment accounts the exact day your salary arrives. Once this system is built, your financial foundation maintains itself. You never miss a payment, you never pay a late fee, and you never have to waste a single minute of your life thinking about paying a utility bill ever again. By automating your wardrobe, your meals, and your money, you're essentially buying back massive amounts of cognitive capacity. You're creating a quiet, predictable foundation that allows your mind to soar into deep, creative, high-level thinking. You eliminate the ordinary so you can focus entirely on the extraordinary. We have subtracted meaningless tasks, we have closed the mental loops of small chores, and we have automated the ordinary logistics of daily life. Now we must confront the most difficult and the most crucial subtraction system of all. We must master the art of saying no to other people. You can have the most optimized calendar and the best energy management in the world, but if you constantly say yes to every request, invitation, and demand that comes your way, your productivity systems will collapse. Your time is a finite, highly valuable asset. Every single time you say yes to something, you are mathematically forced to say no to something else. If you say yes to attending a meaningless 2-hour meeting, you are saying no to 2 hours of deep work on your most important project. If you say yes to taking on an extra project to please a demanding colleague, you are saying no to spending the evening with your family. The greatest investors and business leaders in history understand this fundamental truth. Warren Buffett, the billionaire chairman of Berkshire Hathaway and one of the most successful investors of all time, has built his entire empire on the principle of extreme subtraction. He receives thousands of investment pitches and business proposals every year. He rejects almost all of them. Buffett once shared a profound piece of wisdom that encapsulates the entire philosophy of this book. He stated that the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. Really successful people do not spread themselves thin across dozens of mediocre projects. They do not attend every social event. They do not volunteer for every committee. They ruthlessly protect their time, they hoard their energy, and they wait patiently for the rare opportunities that align perfectly with their ultimate goals. When they find that rare opportunity, they pour all of their massive, concentrated resources into it. The author Derek Sivers popularized a brilliant mental model for this exact scenario. He suggests that when evaluating an opportunity, if your immediate reaction is not a profound, overwhelming yes, then your answer must be a definitive no. There is no room for maybe in the pursuit of extreme productivity. Why is it so difficult for the average person to say no? It is a psychological issue rooted in our deep desire for social acceptance. We are biologically wired to want to please the tribe. We are afraid that if we say no to our boss, we will look lazy. We are afraid that if we say no to a colleague, they will be angry with us. We are afraid that if we say no to an invitation, we will miss out on a networking opportunity. This fear turns us into chronic people-pleasers, constantly sacrificing our own dreams to fulfill the agendas of everyone around us. This people-pleasing behavior leads directly to profound burnout and deep resentment. You end up working 60 hours a week, entirely on projects that do not belong to you, wondering why you never make progress on your own life. To achieve extreme productivity, you must overcome the fear of disappointing others. You must realize that a polite, firm refusal is not an insult. It is a necessary boundary. Setting boundaries is the ultimate act of self-respect. If you do not value your own time, absolutely no one else will. You must build a system of standard responses that allow you to decline requests quickly, gracefully, and without guilt. Never say yes immediately when someone asks you to do something. Your default response to any new request must always be a delay. When a colleague asks if you can help them with a project next week, do not give in to the pressure of the moment. Simply say, "That sounds interesting. Let me check my calendar and get back to you by this afternoon." This creates a buffer. It gives you the space to retreat, analyze your energy investment portfolio, and determine if this new task actually aligns with your goals. If you decide that you must decline the request, do so with absolute clarity. Do not use weak language. Do not say, "I probably cannot do it," or "maybe next time." Weak boundaries invite people to keep pushing and questioning your commitment. Be direct and polite. Use a script like, "Thank you for thinking of me for this project, but my schedule is currently at absolute capacity with my core priorities, so I will have to decline at this time." You do not need to invent a massive excuse. You do not need to apologize profusely. You simply state the fact that your time is already allocated. When you start saying no to people, you might experience some initial friction. People who are used to you being a total servant to their needs might be surprised or even briefly annoyed. But very quickly, a remarkable transformation will occur. People will begin to respect you immensely. They will realize that your time is valuable and scarce. They will stop bringing you trivial problems and only approach you with truly important matters. By saying no to the noise, you elevate your own value in the eyes of everyone around you. You train the world to respect your focus. The final pillar of the subtraction system requires immense personal courage. It is relatively easy to say no to new things that have not started yet. But extreme productivity also demands that you subtract things you have already started. You must learn how to quit. Most of us have been taught since childhood that quitting is a sign of weakness. We are told that winners never quit and quitters never win. This is a massive, dangerous generalization. Winners quit all the time. They quit bad strategies, they quit toxic relationships, they quit failing businesses, and they quit reading bad books. They simply refuse to quit on their ultimate vision. The reason we struggle so much to abandon projects that are clearly not working is due to a powerful cognitive bias known as the sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy is a psychological trap where we continue a behavior or endeavor solely because we have already invested resources into it, whether that is time, money, or emotional effort. We erroneously believe that past investments justify future investments, completely ignoring the absolute fact that those past investments are already gone and can never be recovered. This psychological bias has caused catastrophic failures throughout history. The most famous example in the business world is the Concorde supersonic passenger jet project, which was jointly funded by the British and French governments in the 1960s and 70s. Very early in the development process, it became mathematically obvious that the aircraft would never be commercially profitable. It consumed too much fuel and was far too expensive to maintain. A rational decision would have been to cancel the project immediately, saving billions of dollars. But because the governments had already spent millions of dollars on research and development, they refused to quit. They fell completely into the sunk cost fallacy. They continued pouring billions of taxpayer dollars into a doomed project for nearly 3 decades, simply because they did not want to admit that their initial investment was a waste. The phenomenon is so famous that behavioral economists often refer to the sunk cost fallacy as the Concorde fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy destroys personal productivity every single day in much smaller ways. You spend 3 weeks reading a 600-page book. By chapter 4, you realize the book is terrible, and you are not learning anything. But because you already invested 3 weeks into it, you force yourself to read the remaining 400 pages, completely wasting another month of your valuable reading time just to say you finished it. You start a side business, and after a year, it is losing money and making you miserable. But because you already spent thousands of dollars building the website, you keep running it, burning more money and emotional energy. You go to university and spend 4 years getting a degree in a field you hate. You then spend the next 10 years working in that exact field, completely miserable, because you do not want to admit that the 4 years in university were a mistake. This is the ultimate failure of productivity. You are actively throwing good time after bad time. To build a system of extreme daily productivity, you must become absolutely immune to the sunk cost fallacy. You must train yourself to evaluate every project, career path, and commitment based solely on its present value and its future potential, completely ignoring what you have already spent. Make it a recurring system to conduct a subtraction audit once every single month. Sit down in a quiet room with a blank piece of paper and list every major commitment in your life. Write down every project, every voluntary committee, every subscription, every regular meeting, and every long-term goal. Look at each item with total objectivity. Ask yourself a brutal, illuminating question. If I was not already involved in this project, knowing what I know right now, would I actively choose to start it today? If the answer to that question is a definitive no, you must quit. You must walk away. It does not matter if you have spent 2 weeks on it or 2 entire years on it. Let the past go. Do not let your ego and your pride force you to keep digging a hole that you are already stuck in. The moment you decide to quit a failing endeavor, you stop the bleeding immediately. You instantly reclaim massive amounts of physical, mental, and emotional energy. You free up capacity in your time-blocked schedule to pursue opportunities that actually have a chance of immense success. The art of subtraction is the ultimate secret weapon of the high performer. While the rest of the world is frantically trying to do everything, trying to be everywhere, and trying to please everyone, you must have the intense discipline to do almost nothing. You must filter the noise through the Eisenhower paradigm, focusing entirely on the deeply important and ignoring the superficially urgent. You must ruthlessly clear the mental clutter of small, lingering tasks by executing the 2-minute rule. You must automate your clothing, your food, and your finances so you never suffer from decision fatigue over trivial matters. You must embrace the philosophy of Warren Buffett, saying an absolute no to almost everything so you can say a resounding yes to your true purpose. And you must have the fierce courage to quit projects that no longer serve you, walking away from sunk costs without a single second thought. When you strip away the non-essential, what remains is profound, beautiful clarity. Your life becomes lighter. Your calendar opens up, revealing large blocks of pristine time. Your mind transforms from a cluttered attic into a sharp, highly focused instrument. Subtraction is not about losing things. Subtraction is about gaining absolute freedom. It is the freedom to direct all of your optimized energy into the heavy investment tasks that will transform your career and echo through your life. As we conclude this chapter, you now possess the conceptual tools and the practical habits to defend your energy and your schedule from the endless demands of a chaotic world. You have built an impenetrable fortress around your productivity. You have cut away the fat. But no system, no matter how perfectly designed, runs perfectly forever without continuous maintenance. Life is dynamic. Goals naturally evolve, and friction inevitably creeps back in. In our next and final chapter, we will build the ultimate mechanism for sustained, lifelong success. We will explore the weekly system reset, the incredible power of continuous improvement, and how to guarantee that your productivity engine never breaks down. Prepare to master the absolute art of the weekly review. Chapter 5. The Weekly System Reset. In the first 4 chapters of this journey, we have systematically dismantled the broken traditional methods of working and replaced them with a profound new architecture for your life. You have learned that the foundation of extreme productivity is not time management, but rather the fierce protection and optimization of your biological energy. You have mapped your unique chronotype and categorized your work into an energy investment portfolio. You have constructed a highly resilient external schedule, utilizing the immense power of time blocking to defend your deep work from the catastrophic cognitive costs of context switching and attention residue. You have recognized the absolute fragility of human willpower, choosing instead to engineer a physical and digital environment where positive habits are frictionless and negative distractions are heavily guarded. Finally, you have embraced the brilliant art of subtraction, applying the Eisenhower matrix to eliminate the falsely urgent, utilizing the 2-minute rule to close open loops, and cultivating the courage to say an absolute no to the agendas of others. You possess a formidable system. You are equipped with the knowledge to execute at a level that most people can barely comprehend. However, there is a fundamental law of physics that applies not only to the universe, but directly to your personal productivity. This is the second law of thermodynamics, which introduces the concept of entropy. Entropy dictates that all systems, if left completely alone, will naturally progress from a state of order into a state of absolute chaos and disorder. A beautiful garden, if never maintained, will eventually be consumed by weeds. A perfectly organized desk will naturally accumulate new papers, coffee cups, and clutter over time. Your productivity system is completely bound by this law of entropy. You might design the perfect time-blocked calendar for your week, fully intending to execute every single heavy investment task during your peak biological energy window. But then, the unpredictable chaos of the real world strikes. A major client calls with a sudden emergency. A family member gets sick. You suffer a night of terrible sleep, completely draining your physical energy reserves for the following day. Your digital environment becomes cluttered with new, unsorted files. Because of these inevitable disruptions, your flawless schedule begins to crack. You miss a deep work block. You forget your night before routine. When this happens, the average person makes a fatal psychological error. They view the breakdown of their schedule as a profound personal failure. They believe they lack discipline, the guilt and frustration overwhelm them, and they simply abandon the entire system, falling right back into the miserable reactive cycle of the endless to-do list. They allow entropy to win. To achieve lifelong extreme daily productivity, you must accept that perfection is a complete illusion. Your system will eventually break down. You do not need a perfect system. You need a highly resilient system. You need a dedicated mechanism to fight back against the natural forces of entropy, to clean up the chaos, and to recalibrate your direction. This ultimate maintenance engine is the final pillar of our methodology. It is called the Weekly System Reset. The Weekly System Reset is a non-negotiable, rigidly protected block of time, typically lasting between 30 to 60 minutes, where you completely halt all execution of tasks. You step out of the daily grind, rise to a high-altitude perspective, and focus entirely on evaluating, repairing, and preparing your structural systems. It is the vital bridge connecting the week you just survived to the week you are about to dominate. To deeply understand the philosophy behind this reset, we must examine a revolutionary management concept that originated in the manufacturing sector of post-Second World War Japan. As the nation sought to rebuild its industrial capacity and compete on the global stage, visionary companies like the Toyota Motor Corporation embraced a philosophy known as Kaizen. The Japanese word Kaizen translates directly to continuous improvement. The core principle of Kaizen is that monumental, lasting success is almost never the result of massive, sudden leaps of innovation or heroic bursts of effort. Instead, supreme excellence is achieved through tiny, consistent, incremental improvements made systematically over a long period of time. In the traditional Western factory model, a production line was designed and then left to run until a major machine completely failed, resulting in a catastrophic halt in production and massive repair costs. In the Kaizen model, the production line is evaluated constantly by everyone involved. If a worker notices that moving a specific tool just 3 inches to the left saves them 2 seconds of reaching, they immediately make that micro-adjustment to the system. Saving 2 seconds seems completely trivial in the moment, but when you multiply those 2 seconds by thousands of repetitions across hundreds of workers over an entire year, the resulting increase in efficiency is absolutely staggering. The weekly system reset is the direct application of Kaizen to the architecture of your personal life. When you reach the end of a chaotic week, you must not simply collapse in exhaustion and blindly hope that the next week will magically be easier. Hope is not a strategy for high performance. You must become the lead engineer of your own existence. You must examine the past 7 days as a collection of objective data. You must locate the exact points of friction where your system broke down, and you must make a tiny structural adjustment to ensure that specific failure never happens again. Over the course of 52 weeks in a year, you will have implemented 52 structural upgrades to your life. The compound interest of these micro-adjustments will eventually render your productivity system virtually unbreakable. Before we outline the exact mechanical steps of the reset, we must address the massive psychological barrier that prevents most ambitious people from ever reviewing their past performance. That barrier is the toxic presence of self-criticism and shame. When we experience an unproductive week, we naturally look at the heavy investment tasks we failed to complete, and our inner voice becomes viciously cruel. We label ourselves as lazy, unmotivated, and incompetent. Because looking closely at our failures causes immense emotional pain, we actively avoid the review process. We desperately push forward into the next week, completely ignoring the structural flaws that caused our failure, which mathematically guarantees that we will fail again in the exact same way. The modern self-help industry has falsely conditioned us to believe that punishing ourselves is the most effective way to generate motivation. We believe that if we act like a ruthless dictator toward our own minds, we will finally force ourselves to do the hard work. This is a massive, scientifically disproven fallacy that leads directly to burnout. To build a resilient system, we must examine the groundbreaking psychological research conducted by Dr. Kristin Neff. Over the last 2 decades, including landmark studies published in 2005 and 2025, Dr. Neff has extensively mapped the biological and behavioral impacts of self-criticism versus self-compassion. Her clinical findings completely shatter the myth of the inner critic. Dr. Neff discovered that when you engage in harsh self-criticism after a failure, your brain interprets that internal hostile voice as a literal physical threat. Your amygdala activates, flooding your nervous system with cortisol and adrenaline. Your body enters a state of fight, flight, or freeze. Because your brain feels under attack, it desperately seeks immediate emotional safety and comfort. This biological panic response leads directly to severe procrastination, avoidance behaviors, and a complete shutdown of the prefrontal cortex, which is the exact part of your brain required for deep, analytical work. Your inner critic does not make you work harder. It literally paralyzes your cognitive engine. In profound contrast, Dr. Neff research demonstrates that practicing self-compassion yields a radically different biological outcome. Self-compassion does not mean feeling sorry for yourself. And it certainly does not mean lowering your standards. It simply means treating yourself with the exact same objective kindness, grace, and understanding that you would naturally offer to a highly respected colleague who had just made a mistake. The clinical data proves that individuals who practice self-compassion after a failure exhibit significantly higher levels of intrinsic motivation. They are far more likely to adopt mastery goals, meaning they are driven by a genuine desire to learn, adapt, and improve, rather than being paralyzed by a fear of appearing incompetent. When a highly self-compassionate professional experiences a terrible week of productivity, they do not spiral into a pit of shame. They keep their nervous system calm. They look at the failure as a mechanical breakdown rather than a moral defect. They ask themselves what external variables caused the breakdown, what lessons can be extracted from the data, and how the system can be adapted moving forward. Because they are not blinded by guilt, they recover from setbacks with astonishing speed. To execute the weekly system reset effectively, you must fully embrace the science of self-compassion. You must enter your review session with a mindset of total psychological safety. You are not a judge handing down a punitive sentence. You are an elite scientist calmly observing the results of a complex experiment. If the past week was an absolute disaster, you simply accept that reality without a single ounce of judgment. You extend grace to your human biology, recognizing that life is highly unpredictable. You take a deep breath, you open your notebook, and you begin the methodical process of continuous improvement. The weekly system reset is composed of 4 distinct, actionable phases. Phase 1 is the externalization of your cognitive load. Phase 2 is the retrospective review. Phase 3 is the forward calendar audit. Phase 4 is the strategic targeting. You must execute these 4 phases in this precise order to achieve absolute mental clarity and unyielding focus. Phase 1 of the reset is the brain dump. As you navigate the complexities of a busy week, your mind acts like a sponge, absorbing a massive amount of invisible weight. You generate new ideas during your commute. You encounter unexpected problems during meetings. You make casual verbal promises to your colleagues. You suddenly remember household chores that need to be completed. All of these lingering, unresolved thoughts are open loops. In Chapter 4, we extensively discuss the Zeigarnik effect, which is the proven biological tendency for the human brain to obsessively hold on to uncompleted tasks. If you attempt to carry all of these open loops into your weekend, you will be physically incapable of achieving deep recovery. Your subconscious mind will continue to spin rapidly in the background, burning massive amounts of mental fuel and generating a constant low-level hum of anxiety. You will feel incredibly stressed, even when you are supposed to be resting, because your biological alarm clock is constantly reminding you of everything you have not finished. You cannot simply try to organize these thoughts internally. You must violently extract them from your biology. This is a neurological necessity supported by rigorous academic research. In the year 2011, psychological researchers E.J. Masicampo and Roy Baumeister published a profound academic study investigating the cognitive interference caused by unfulfilled goals. They wanted to discover if there was a mechanism to neutralize the Zeigarnik effect and free up cognitive resources, even if the actual task could not be completed at that exact moment. Their experimental results were absolutely incredible. They discovered that simply creating a concrete, specific plan for an unfulfilled task completely eliminated the cognitive interference. The physical act of writing the task down on paper and deciding when it would be addressed signaled to the subconscious brain that the goal was secure. Once the brain recognized that the information was safely stored in an external system, it immediately stopped obsessing over it. The agonizing cognitive tension evaporated instantly, freeing up massive amounts of working memory for other, more important pursuits. Your brain dump is the intense, practical application of this brilliant scientific discovery. You will take a completely blank piece of paper or open a new, blank digital document. You will set a physical timer for exactly 10 minutes. For the duration of those 10 minutes, you will write down absolutely everything that is currently occupying your mental space. Write down the minor emails you forgot to send. Write down the massive, complex business strategies you want to explore next year. Write down the personal anxieties, the financial worries, and the random errands. During this 10-minute extraction, you must not attempt to organize the list. You must not attempt to prioritize the items. Do not judge the thoughts as they appear. The singular objective of this phase is total evacuation. You are pouring the chaotic, overwhelming contents of your working memory directly onto the page. When the timer finally rings and the extraction is complete, you will experience a profound, highly noticeable physical sensation of relief. Your tense shoulders will naturally drop. Your breathing will become deeper and slower. You have successfully short-circuited the Zeigarnik effect. The immense cognitive burden has been successfully lifted from your fragile biology and permanently transferred to your external system. Your mind is now completely clear, calm, and prepared to evaluate the past. Phase 2 is the retrospective review. This is where you look strictly in the rearview mirror and apply the powerful Kaizen philosophy. You will open your calendar and your task tracking system from the past 7 days. You must analyze the data by asking yourself 3 specific, highly analytical questions. Question number 1. What went exceptionally well this week? Human biology is naturally wired with a negativity bias, meaning we focus intensely on threats and failures to survive. To build a system of extreme productivity, you must intentionally force yourself to acknowledge your victories. Did you successfully protect your heavy investment tasks during your peak energy window on Tuesday? Did you successfully utilize the 2-minute rule to keep your inbox empty on Thursday? Did you manage to say no to a massive time-wasting meeting? By actively acknowledging these specific wins, you trigger a natural release of dopamine in your brain. This powerful neurochemical reinforces the positive habits, validates your effort, and builds massive forward momentum. Question number 2. Where exactly did the system fail? This is the moment you deploy your clinical self-compassion. Look closely at the days where your productivity completely collapsed. Do not search for emotional excuses. Search for the mechanical root cause. Did your Wednesday afternoon deep work block fail because you were simply too exhausted to focus? If so, why were you exhausted? Did you consume a heavy, carbohydrate-rich lunch that triggered a massive biological energy crash? Did your focus shatter on Friday morning because you constantly checked your smartphone? Why did you check it? Perhaps you forgot to leave the phone in another room, and the visual cue of the glowing screen hijacked your attention. You must identify the precise environmental friction points and the biological missteps that derailed your focus. Question number 3. What specific micro-adjustment will I implement for next week? You cannot simply observe the points of failure and move on. You must engineer a permanent solution. If the heavy lunch destroyed your Wednesday focus, the Kaizen micro-adjustment is to automate the consumption of a light, high-protein meal for lunch next Wednesday. If the visible smartphone destroyed your Friday morning, the micro-adjustment is to purchase a physical lockbox for your device and permanently place it on your desk. You must create a concrete, highly actionable rule that fundamentally changes your environment, ensuring that the exact same failure becomes physically impossible to repeat. This continuous process of locating friction and engineering solutions is how your system evolves from a fragile concept into an unbreakable architecture. Phase 3 is the forward calendar audit. You have cleared the heavy cognitive load from your mind, and you have extracted the vital lessons from your past failures. Now you need to look straight ahead and get your week ready. Open your blank calendar for the next 7 days. This step is all about organizing your time and setting up your environment. The very first thing you need to do is schedule your basic health habits. You need to draw actual boxes on your calendar for your sleep, your morning workout, your healthy meals, and your evening rest. As we discussed in Chapter 1, you cannot manage your time or focus if you do not take care of your body first. These health blocks are your top priority, and you cannot skip them. Next, check the upcoming week for big scheduling problems. Look closely at your required meetings, appointments, and current commitments. Are there any specific days that are way too packed? For example, if you see that Tuesday already has 6 hours of back-to-back team meetings, you need to be realistic about how tired you will be. You will have zero mental energy left for hard, focused work on that day. Because of this, you need to adjust your expectations right now. Do not try to schedule a difficult project for Tuesday afternoon. If you do, things will go wrong and you will just get frustrated. Instead, move that difficult project to Thursday morning when your calendar is wide open and your brain is fully rested. While checking your calendar, you also need to make sure you have buffer times. Look closely at the gaps between your major events. If you have to give a stressful presentation to a client that ends right at noon, do not schedule another hard meeting to start at 12:15. That is a terrible idea that will ruin your focus and wear you out. You need time to think about the presentation, write down your notes, and let yourself calm down. You have to put a 30-minute break between those events. By building these breaks into your schedule before the week starts, you make sure you will not spend the next few days feeling stressed and rushed. You are building a schedule that can handle the unpredictable nature of daily life. Once your calendar is checked, balanced, and protected with breaks, you need to look back at the big list of thoughts you wrote down earlier. You have to sort through this messy list by using the filtering methods from Chapter 4. Look closely at every single item on the list. If an item is just a distraction that adds no value to your life, cross it off right away and drop it entirely. If an item is a small chore that takes less than 2 minutes to finish, stop planning, do it right now, and check it off. If an item is an urgent but unimportant request from someone else, pass it to someone else, or send a quick email to handle it. After applying these strict filters, the only items left on your list will be the truly important projects that will actually help your career and life. You take these valuable tasks and put them straight into the focus blocks you just built on your calendar. Your schedule is now extremely well planned. You have reached the final part of the weekly planning routine. This step is about setting your main goals. It is the best way to get total clarity and strong focus for the next few days. When most people finish planning, they usually write a huge list with 20 or 30 projects they want to finish. This is a massive mistake. Having 30 main goals is the exact same thing as having 0 goals. When you say everything is super important, you make nothing important. If you start Monday morning looking at a list of 30 complex goals, your mind will instantly get tired from trying to choose. You will feel stuck because there are too many options, and you will end up doing the easiest, smallest chores just to feel like you are doing something. To get a lot done every day, you need to get really good at narrowing things down. You have to limit your focus to a very specific goal. To do this, we will use a great planning method created by a well-known productivity author. This method is called the Rule of 3. This author developed this specific method while managing very complicated engineering projects at a large software company, and it is known as one of the best ways to stay on track in a busy workplace. The Rule of 3 has a very simple but hard guideline. You have to limit your main focus to exactly 3 results for any time period. You will pick 3 big results for your year, 3 results for your month, 3 results for your week, and 3 results for your day. This layered setup makes sure your daily habits always match your long-term life goals. During this final step of your weekly planning, you will look at your updated calendar and your big projects. You will close your eyes and ask yourself one very helpful question. If it were Friday evening of next week and I was looking back at everything I did over the last 5 days, what 3 specific results would make me feel proud and successful? You absolutely cannot pick 10 results. You cannot bargain with yourself and pick 5. You have to make tough choices and pick only the top 3 most important results. These 3 choices become your big 3 for the next week. They are your absolute main targets. Once you figure out these 3 results, write them down on a piece of paper in large, bold letters. You will then put this piece of paper somewhere easy to see in your workspace, maybe taped right to the bottom of your computer screen. By using the rule of 3, you get rid of the stress of having an endless list of chores. You have drawn a clear boundary for yourself. You know exactly what success looks like for the next few days. When Monday morning gets here, you do not have to waste any mental energy trying to decide what to work on first. You just sit at your clean desk, look at your big 3, start your first 90-minute focus session, and tackle your most important goal with full energy. If the upcoming week gets messy, if big emergencies pop up, and if your perfect schedule gets completely ruined, you do not panic. You simply rely on the rule of 3. You ignore the background noise, delay all minor requests, and work hard to finish those 3 main goals. This strict limit on your focus is the best trick used by top performers everywhere. They do not try to do more tasks than you do. They just figure out the most important tasks, and they finish them consistently. We have now gone over the exact steps of the weekly planning routine. You understand the value of writing everything down, looking back at your past week, checking your calendar, and setting your main goals. But just knowing these steps in your head is not enough. You have to figure out how to fit this habit into your actual daily routine. You need to make a clear choice about exactly when and how you're going to run this weekly checkup. There are 2 very popular opinions on the absolute best time to do this weekly planning routine. The first option is Friday afternoon. The second option is Sunday evening. Both of these times offer unique mental benefits, and you should carefully choose the one that best fits your sleep patterns, your energy, and your family life. Doing the planning on Friday afternoon is a highly effective strategy for people who want to completely separate their work life from their weekend rest. Usually, around 3 or 4 in the afternoon on a Friday, your physical energy and your willpower are totally drained. You just do not have the mental focus to do deep, hard work. Trying to write a complex document at this time is a waste of time. However, you still have more than enough basic energy to review your calendar, organize your messy files, and write down your thoughts. By choosing to do the planning on Friday afternoon, you use the momentum of the work week. The specific mistakes, the sticking points, and the big wins are still fresh in your memory, making your small adjustments much more accurate. More importantly, when you finish the 4 steps of the planning on a Friday afternoon, you officially close out the work week. You finish every single open task. You set your big 3 goals for the following Monday. You leave your desk knowing exactly what is going to happen next week. This creates a strong mental wall between your job and your life. You can confidently step into your weekend and enjoy true deep rest. You will not spend Saturday afternoon worrying about an unfinished project because your mind knows the project is safely saved and scheduled in your notes. When Monday morning arrives, you just step back into your clean workspace, start your routine, and get going. The other strategy is doing the weekly planning on Sunday evening. This specific approach is very helpful for people who have to manage complex personal goals, intense workouts, and busy family schedules along with their jobs. Sunday evening brings a very helpful mental shift known as the fresh start effect. As the relaxed weekend comes to an end, the human mind naturally switches into a forward-looking, highly organized planning mode. Also, if you have properly protected your weekend, your physical and mental energy levels have been fully restored by 2 days of deep rest. Doing the planning on Sunday evening allows you to step back and look at the entire picture of your upcoming week. You can easily mix your professional work goals with your personal growth goals, your workouts, and your important family events. You sit down in a quiet house, write down all your thoughts to clear the weekend clutter, adjust your routines based on your past review, and clearly set your big 3 goals for the week. You go to sleep on Sunday night feeling a great sense of total control and calm readiness. You wake up on Monday morning completely prepared, mentally clear, and absolutely ready to start. Whichever time you end up choosing, whether it is the Friday afternoon wrap-up or the Sunday evening prep time, you must make it an unbreakable appointment with yourself. You need to protect this specific 30 to 60-minute block of time with much more respect and care than a meeting with your absolute most important client. You must do this because you are your most important client. Your future success depends entirely on this maintenance. If you casually skip the weekly system reset because you feel too busy, you are making a conscious, deliberate decision to let the chaos win. You are actively choosing to let the forces of entropy destroy the beautiful, highly efficient architecture of your productivity. To absolutely guarantee that you never skip this vital reset, you must transform it from a boring administrative chore into a highly rewarding, deeply pleasurable personal ritual. Human beings are biological creatures deeply driven by environmental cues, sensory experiences, and dopamine rewards. If your reset feels miserable, your brain will continually manufacture excuses to avoid doing it. You must deliberately engineer the experience to be immensely enjoyable. Create a highly specific, protected physical environment for your weekly system reset. Do not perform the reset at the exact same messy, chaotic desk where you frantically answer stressful emails all day. Clear the physical space entirely. Perhaps you move to a comfortable reading chair by a large window with natural light. Put on a highly specific playlist of instrumental, deeply calming music. This powerful auditory cue will quickly train your subconscious brain to instantly associate that specific music with feelings of deep clarity, safety, and organization. Brew a premium cup of expensive coffee or a highly specific type of herbal tea that you strictly only allow yourself to drink during this specific ritual. By brilliantly combining the profound, immense mental relief of the brain dump with the sensory pleasure of the beautiful music and the warm drink, you create a massive, incredibly powerful positive reinforcement loop in your brain. You will actually begin to deeply crave your weekly system reset. You will look forward to it all week. It will transform into the absolute sanctuary of your week, the quiet, impregnable center of the hurricane where you regain absolute control over your environment, your time, and your ultimate destiny. As we reach the final conclusion of this chapter and the ultimate conclusion of this entire transformative journey, I want you to stop and take a long moment to deeply reflect on the immense fundamental shift you have just undergone. You did not just learn a few trivial, superficial tips about how to write a slightly better to-do list or how to organize your digital folders. You have completely, fundamentally rewired the absolute core operating system of your life. You have bravely stepped out of the exhausting, miserable, historically broken paradigm of traditional time management. You now deeply understand the profound, undeniable biological truth that your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy are the absolute true engines of all human achievement. You have accurately identified your unique genetic chronotype, whether you are a lion, a bear, a wolf, or a dolphin. You now possess the immense wisdom to perfectly match your heaviest, most cognitively complex work to your absolute sharpest, most vibrant biological hours. You will never again foolishly force yourself to perform deep, analytical, cognitive labor when your internal battery is empty. You have completely rejected the modern toxic disease of constant digital distraction. You clearly understand the catastrophic, financially devastating cognitive cost of context switching and the lingering poison of attention residue. You have built a massive, impenetrable fortress around your daily schedule using the absolute magic of time blocking. You have fully embraced the profound, life-changing power of deep work, deliberately choosing depth, quality, and intense focus over the shallow, chaotic, performative busyness of the modern masses. You have recognized the profound scientific reality that human willpower is a highly finite, incredibly unreliable biological resource. You have completely stopped blaming yourself for a perceived lack of discipline, and instead, you have transformed yourself into a master architect of your physical and digital environment. You know exactly how to ruthlessly manipulate friction, adding massive, invisible walls to permanently block your negative habits and perfectly smoothing the path to make your positive, productive habits completely automatic. You have mastered the brilliant night before routine, ensuring that you wake up every single day to a pristine, clean launchpad, totally immune to the devastating effects of morning decision fatigue. You have fully embraced the ancient, powerful philosophy of via negativa. You understand with absolute clarity that true extreme productivity is not found in doing more, but is found in the brilliant, ruthless art of subtraction. You expertly use the Eisenhower matrix to completely ignore the falsely urgent demands of others and fiercely protect your deeply important goals. You rapidly clear the mental clutter of tiny, annoying tasks instantly by executing the 2-minute rule. You have systematically automated the mundane, repetitive logistics of your clothing, your daily food, and your monthly finances. Most importantly, you have found the immense, unyielding personal courage to say an absolute, definitive no to the distracting agendas of other people, and you have cultivated the incredible bravery to walk away entirely from the sunk costs of failing projects. And finally, you have built the ultimate, unbreakable maintenance engine. You understand that absolute perfection is a myth and that all human systems naturally degrade over time. But you are no longer afraid of failure or setbacks. You face your chaotic weeks with the immense biological advantage of clinical self-compassion. You utilize the weekly system reset to execute the brilliant philosophy of Kaizen, making continuous, powerful micro-adjustments to your life. You constantly clear your heavy cognitive load through the massive relief of the brain dump. You defensively audit your upcoming calendar to survive contact with reality, and you intensely constrain your incredible human potential into the laser-sharp focus of the big 3 targets. This is exactly how you build systems for extreme daily productivity. This is exactly how you reclaim absolute ownership of your precious time, your incredibly valuable energy, and your brief, beautifully finite existence on this planet. The powerful tools are now fully in your hands. The biological science is absolutely clear. The structural frameworks are completely proven by the highest performers in the world. You no longer have to live your life in a constant, suffocating state of overwhelm, ending your days feeling completely exhausted but tragically unfulfilled. You possess the exact, step-by-step blueprint to meticulously build a life of profound focus, immense world-changing achievement, and deep, restorative, lasting peace. The modern world is absolutely desperate for individuals who can think deeply, execute consistently, and fiercely protect their energy in an age of infinite, shallow distraction. You are now fully equipped and completely weaponized to be one of those rare, truly unstoppable individuals. Do not wait for the perfect moment to begin this transformation. The perfect moment is an illusion that simply does not exist. There is only right now. Start incredibly small. Identify your personal chronotype today. Block out one single, uninterrupted hour of deep work for tomorrow morning. Clear the clutter from your physical desk tonight before you go to sleep. Every single tiny positive action you take is a powerful vote for the incredible person you are actively becoming. Trust the system you have built. Deeply respect your human biology. Fiercely and violently protect your focus from the noise of the world. Keep adjusting your systems, keep improving your environment, and absolutely never surrender to the chaos. Go forward with massive confidence and build your ultimate masterpiece. Thank you for spending your time with us today. If you found value in these systems and want to continue leveling up your mindset, habits, and daily life, make sure to subscribe to Williams Audiobooks. We release powerful, life-changing content regularly, and we would love to have you on this journey of growth with us. Keep building, keep growing, and see you in the next one.